It was a little after 2 in the morning when the call came in. Night shift had been quiet that week. Almost dead quiet, the kind of quiet that plays tricks on you. The dispatch room has its own sort of silence, a layered one. There's the constant low hum of the air vents, the occasional clack of a keyboard from another desk, the faint rustle of paper when someone logs a report. It's never silent. But that night, it felt thinner, like there was less air in the room. I've been on my third cup of coffee, scrolling through old incident logs just to stay awake when my headset beeped. 911, what's your emergency? I said, automatically the way you always do. No answer, just breathing. Slow, heavy breathing right against the microphone. The kind of breathing you'd expect if someone had just run a long way, except it didn't sound tired. It sounded measured. Too slow for panic. Too deep for comfort. Hello. I tried again, leaning a little closer to my monitor. This is 911. Do you need help? The breathing didn't stop. I could hear every inhale, every exhale. Damp, almost wet at the edges. It filled my ears in a way that made the hair on the back of my neck lift. Now, this isn't unusual at first. You get but dials, prank calls, people too scared to talk. But usually you can hear background noise, traffic, voices, TV, something. This was different. The line was so clean, so empty, that it felt like the breathing was happening right inside my headset. Sir or ma'am, I said, keeping my voice calm. If you can't talk, I just need you to make a noise. Cough. Tap the phone. Anything. Nothing. Just that slow draw of air. I was about to log it as a silent call when, finally, I heard a whisper. So faint, I almost missed it. Can't. My hand froze on the keyboard. You can't what? Can you repeat that? Can't talk. I lowered my voice without thinking, glancing at the other dispatchers around me. Are you hurt? Can you tell me where you are? A pause. The breathing was louder now, faster, but not theirs. I realized with a cold drop in my stomach that there were two different patterns. The caller's breath was shaky, shallow. The other one steady, closer to the phone. It's here. The whisper came again, so low it scraped the edge of the mic. I felt my throat go dry. What's here? Is someone in your house? Not someone, they breathed. Don't make it notice. The dispatcher next to me, Alvarez, gave me a sideways look. I must have gone pale, because he mouthed, "You okay?" I nodded quickly and turned my chair slightly, shielding the mic. "Can you tell me your address?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper now. There was a long stretch where neither of us spoke. Just that awful duet of breathing, one terrified, one deliberate. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, ready to type whatever location they gave. But they didn't give one. "I'm in the hall," they finally said. The closet door is open." I typed that in, scanning for recent calls from the area. Nothing matched. "What's your name?" I asked. No answer. Instead, I heard a faint creak. Wood, underweight. Then the caller's breathing quickened. "It's moving." I stood from my chair, waving at Alvarez for a location trace. He frowned, tapped at his console. I stayed on the line. "Okay, I want you to listen to me. Don't hang up. We got help on the way, but I need you to." "It's not looking at me," they whispered, cutting me off. "It's listening." I glanced at the clock. Only 2 minutes into the call, but it felt like 10. "What's listening?" The line went quiet for a beat. Then I heard it, louder this time. That second breathing. Slow, damp, almost too close to be real. The caller must have moved the phone slightly because I picked up new sounds, a faint ticking like a clock somewhere in the room. And under that, the sound of fabric shifting. "Is there a door between you and it?" I asked, forcing my voice to stay even. "Not anymore." Every muscle in my body went tight. I gestured frantically at Alvarez. "Anything?" He shook his head. "No location yet." The caller's voice broke, trembling. "If I talk, it'll know." "Okay, don't talk," I whispered back. "Can you tap the phone once for yes, twice for no?" A single, shaky tap. "Are you inside your house?" Tap. "Are you alone?" A long pause. Then 2 taps. My chest tightened. "Who's with you?" I asked before I could stop myself. The breathing in my ear shifted, like the second presence had moved closer to the phone. Alvarez's eyes flicked to mine. He mouthed, still nothing. I leaned over my keyboard, lowering my voice so much it barely left my lips. Is it a person? No tap, no whisper, just breathing. Then, from somewhere near the mic, a voice I hadn't heard before. Low, rumbling, and impossibly slow. Don't listen. I froze. My hands went cold, sweat sliding down my spine. The caller gasped, quiet but sharp. Then the sound of hurried footsteps. I raised my voice now, professionalism breaking under the weight of whatever I just heard. Sir, I need you to get somewhere safe. Lock yourself in a room if you can. More footsteps, then the creak of a floorboard. I told you, they whispered between breaths. If I run, it follows. The second breathing quickened, matching their pace. In the background, a faint, rhythmic thump began, like something brushing against the wall in steady intervals. Alvarez swore under his breath, still working the trace. Almost got it, he muttered, though I barely heard him over the pounding in my ears. Then came a noise that made my skin crawl, a long, wet inhale that seemed to pull the air right out of the room. It was so close to the mic, I instinctively pulled my headset away. When I put it back on, the caller wasn't breathing anymore. They were crying. Soft, shaking sobs, muffled like they were pressing a hand over their mouth. I wanted to say something, but before I could, the second voice returned, right against the microphone. Here, the sobbing stopped. Location. I barked at Alvarez, louder than I meant to. He shook his head. He hesitated, glancing at his screen. It's not on the grid. That didn't make sense. What do you mean? No signal origin, he said. It's like the call's coming from nowhere. I turned back to my console. Sir? Ma'am? Can you hear me? Silence. Then, very faintly, please don't hang up. I swallowed hard. I won't. Just tell me where you are. Another pause. Then the whisper, in the dark. And the line went dead. I sat there with the dial tone in my ear long after Alvarez told me to log it and move on. But I didn't. I couldn't. Because even after the call disconnected, I swear I could still hear that slow, wet breathing. Not in a headset this time. Right behind me, that I didn't sleep after that call. Not that night. Not for a few nights after. It's easy to tell yourself you've heard it all when you work dispatch long enough. Car wrecks, overdoses, home invasions. But the breathing stayed with me. Not just the sound of it, but the way it seemed aware. Like it was leaning closer every time the caller spoke. I thought that would be the end of it. A one-off. A weird, unexplained call that would get filed away as untraceable and slowly fade in a background noise in my head. It didn't. The second night after, at almost the exact same time, my headset beeped. Same emptiness on the line. No background noise. No static. Just breathing. My stomach turned before I even spoke. 911, what's your emergency? Nothing. I felt my pulse in my fingertips. If this is the same caller, tap once for yes. A single, faint tap came through like a fingernail against the phone. I waved for Alvarez without taking my eyes off the screen. Tracing, I mouthed. He nodded, already typing. Okay, I whispered. We're going to try something different tonight. I can't hear where you are unless you give me clues. Do you understand? Another tap. Good. Can you tell me if you're in a house? Tap. In a city? 2 taps. That meant no. My hands moved over the keyboard, logging it. Are you somewhere rural? Tap. That narrowed it down. Not much, but something. As I waited for their next clue, I heard it, soft, measured, almost gentle. Footsteps. They weren't rushed. No stumbling. Just a steady pace, one after the other, on what sounded like wood flooring. The caller's breathing got shaky again, uneven. I spoke carefully, like I didn't want to disturb the air between us. Is someone in the room with you? Tap. Is it the same presence from before? Tap. Alvarez glanced at me, brow furrowed. I could see his progress bar inching across the tray screen. It's pinging, he whispered. Good. I whispered back, even though my chest felt tight. Then the caller did something unexpected. They started moving. I could hear it in the shifting of their breath, the faint swish of fabric, the soft creak of a door hinge. In the background, the footsteps stopped. I froze, my mouth half open. Are you hiding? Tap. The silence that followed was heavier than the quiet of the first call. It was the kind of silence that made you strain to hear something, anything, just to know the line was still connected. Then, faint but clear, came the sound of another door opening, and the footsteps returned. Closer now. Every few seconds, the line would carry a different little sound. A slow exhale from the caller, the groan of a floorboard, the almost imperceptible scrape of something brushing along the wall. "You're doing good," I murmured. "Just stay on the line. We're almost there." Another tap. I don't know why, but it made me feel worse knowing they believed me. Because the truth was, I didn't know if we'd find them at all. "Can you see a window?" I asked. 2 taps. "No windows? Are you in a basement?" Tap. The footsteps were louder now. Each one was followed by a brief pause, like whoever it was or whatever it was listening between steps. "Are they getting closer?" Tap. I caught Alvarez looking at me again. He mouthed, "It's moving too." "What?" I whispered. "The signal. It's shifting, like they're walking while we trace them." That didn't make sense. A trace should hold even if the caller's moving. But then I thought about the second breathing pattern, how it seemed to be moving too. My skin felt too tight. "You need to tell me where you are," I said, trying to keep my voice from cracking. The caller tapped once. Then, after a long pause, another tap. Yes and no. The answer didn't make sense until I heard it. Something heavy dragging across the floor. Then a new sound. Not the caller's breathing, not the footsteps. Something else. A voice. It wasn't talking to me. It was talking to them. Low, guttural, drawn-out syllables I couldn't make out. Almost like it was humming words instead of speaking them. The caller's breathing hitched. And then I heard their whisper for the first time that night. "It knows." I sat forward, my headset pressing uncomfortably into my ear. "We've almost got you. Just hang on." The voice cut through the line, sharper this time. Not words, not really, just sound, but there was a shape to it, like it was trying to form my name. My real name. I didn't tell them my name. The caller whimpered. The footsteps started again, but this time there were 2 sets. One slow, deliberate. The other faster, retreating. "Run," I said before I could stop myself. "Get out now." The sound of movement exploded through the line. Panting, the thud of rapid steps, a door slamming. Then nothing. I thought the call had dropped, but after a few seconds, I heard it again. That same slow breathing. Alone now. No footsteps. No caller. Just it. I yanked my headset off. Alvarez swore under his breath. "The signal's gone. Just gone." I didn't ask him to check again. I knew we wouldn't find it. But the worst part wasn't the call cutting out. It was the realization that the last thing I heard before the line went dead wasn't breathing at all. It was whispering, and it was saying, clear as day, "I can't hear you." There's something about the third call that makes you feel different. The first time, you can tell yourself it's a fluke. The second time, you start wondering if it's just bad luck. But the third time means it's not going away. I've been dreading it all day. Every tick of the clock toward my shift felt heavier. By the time I walked into the dispatch room, the air already felt stale, like the night had been waiting for me. It was just past 2 a.m. when the line lit up. I didn't even need to say 911 before I knew. The silence. That hollow space in the line. And under it breathing. Slow. Heavy. Too close. I took a breath of my own, slow and steady, so they wouldn't hear the way my chest tightened. "I'm here," I said softly. "Can you talk tonight?" A whisper came, so faint it was barely sound at all. "It's inside." My eyes flicked to Alvarez. He saw my face and didn't even ask. He was already pulling up the trace program. "What do you mean?" I asked, my throat dry. "I locked the door," they said. "Hours ago." I tried to keep my voice even. And the pause on the other end was long enough that I thought the call had dropped. Then, just as my stomach started to sink, they said, "It's in my room." Every inch of my skin prickled. "Where in your room?" Another long pause. "Closet." For a second, I couldn't breathe. My mind went to the slow footsteps from the night before, the way the breathing had followed them through the house. "Do not hang up," I said. "Stay quiet. We'll get someone there." In the background, I heard a soft click. Not the line. Something in their room, like a hinge settling. I tried to picture it. Dark bedroom, small closet door, just slightly open. That thick dark space inside, and something breathing in it. "You're sure your front door is locked?" I asked. I checked it 3 times, they whispered. "Deadbolt too." That didn't leave me any comfort. If whatever this was could get in without opening a door, locks didn't matter. "Can you see the closet from where you are?" I asked. Another pause. I can see the crack. The crack. The doors open a little. I close my eyes for a second, just long enough to steady my hands. Don't look at it, I told them. Just keep your eyes on something else. But they didn't answer right away. And when they did, their voice had changed, shakier, quieter. I think it's looking at me. Alvarez muttered something under his breath, still hammering the keys. Signal's erratic. Keeps bouncing. Bounce it faster, I said. The caller's breathing picked up. Not panicked yet, but close. It's not moving, they whispered. I let out a slow breath. That's good. Just stay still. If it doesn't move, you don't move. Another pause. Then, barely audible, it's smiling. I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. Don't describe it. Don't give it attention. A new sound slid through the line then. Not footsteps. Not the caller's trembling inhale. A slow shuffle. Fabric brushing wood. My pulse started pounding. It's moving. Silence. Then a whisper. It's closer to the crack. Alvarez swore under his breath. Almost there. I wanted to tell them to run. To throw the door open and bolt. But I remembered the last time, how it seemed to follow. Where's your phone? I asked. In my hand. Good. Keep it there. Don't put it down. They didn't respond. That's when I realized the second breathing was louder now. Not just louder, clearer. I could almost hear the wetness at the edges, the way it pulled air and like it was savoring it. It's not supposed to be here, they whispered. What do you mean? It was outside last night. It's not outside anymore. The way they said it, it wasn't just fear. It was disbelief. Like they'd been holding on to a rule they thought would protect them, and now it was gone. I didn't know what to say. My throat felt too tight to form words. The shuffling stopped. For a few seconds, there was nothing. Then came the creak of a floorboard. Alvarez looked up. We got to fix. Wait. No, it's gone again. The caller's whisper came faster now, trembling. It's opening the door. Don't move, I said. Stay on the line. I could hear them trying to control their breathing, keeping it shallow. But under it, the slow inhale-exhale of the other presence filled the silence like a tide coming in. Another creak. Then I heard it, the soft click of the door opening all the way. I thought I heard something else too, but it wasn't sound exactly. More like the feeling you get when someone steps too close behind you. A change in the air. The caller whispered again. I can see its feet. My fingers dug into the desk. Describe them. No. That was the first time they'd outright refused me. And I didn't push. In the background, something shifted, just one step forward. It's not moving toward me, they said. That's good. I started, but they cut me off. It's waiting. I'm out to Alvarez. How far? Too far, he whispered. Even if we had it now. He didn't need to finish. It's not breathing anymore, they said. I frowned. What? It stopped. The line felt too quiet now. Then, so softly I almost missed it, I heard their whisper again. I think it's listening to you. My hands went cold. Then we'll stop talking. Just stay. No. That word hit me like ice water. No. It doesn't matter if we stop. Why not? A pause. Then, it's in the closet. But the closet's behind me. I froze. I thought you said. I did. Their voice broke. It moved. Without moving. I had no answer for that. Somewhere on the line, something let out a sound I will never forget. Not a breath, not a growl. Just a long, slow exhale like it had been holding its breath the whole time. And then, silence. For 3 full seconds, nothing. Then the caller whispered, it's not in the closet anymore. Where is it? They didn't answer. Instead, I heard a new sound. One that made my chest go cold. It was breathing. But it wasn't in the headset this time. It was in the room with me that I didn't sleep the next day. Not really. I sat in my car outside the station before my shift, just staring at the building. My eyes felt grainy, my hands cold on the steering wheel, but my head wouldn't stop replaying last night's call. The breathing. The way it stopped. The way it came back. And that last thing he said before the line went dead. That part had burrowed so deep into me, it felt like a splinter I couldn't pull out. By the time I finally walked inside, it was like stepping into a memory I didn't want to remember. The smell of burnt coffee, the faint hum of the fluorescent lights, the low murmur of voices in the dispatch room. It was all too normal for what I knew had happened here. I clocked in, put on my headset, and tried to tell myself it would be fine. It's just another shift, another set of calls. but the chair felt colder than usual. The mic boom felt heavier. It wasn't even 2 hours in when the sound came again. That faint static on the line. That same hiss. For a moment, I froze, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. The caller ID field just said, unknown. Not a number. Not even a location tag. I answer anyway. My voice cracked. 911. What's your emergency? There was nothing for a second except a faint, irregular breath. Like someone trying to keep quiet but forgetting they still had to inhale. Hello? I asked. Then a whisper. They're in here. My skin prickled. I knew that voice. I knew it. Sir, is this? I caught myself. You're not supposed to address them by name unless they give it. But I couldn't help it. Is this Adam? A pause. And then, quietly, I locked the door. I gripped the desk so hard my fingers ached. Adam, are you safe right now? Where are you in the house? The bedroom, he said. I thought it was outside. I heard outside all night. But it's not. His words were shaky, unsteady, like he was trying to push them past a tightening throat. I felt my own breath slow, sinking with his without meaning to. Where is it now? I asked. Closet. The word barely made it through. I swallowed hard and tried to keep my voice steady. Okay, Adam, don't hang up. Help is coming. Can you tell me what you see? He gave this low, shaking exhale, like he'd been holding it in too long. I can't see. I didn't open it. I don't want to. I wrote the note down for the responding unit, typing faster than I could think. Male caller, bedroom, believe someone is inside closet. Door locked. Sounds inside. While I was still typing, he spoke again, almost a whimper. It's breathing. My throat went dry. It wasn't the first time I'd heard that from someone on a call, but there was something about this way of saying it, like the word itself felt heavier than it should. You're doing great, I said softly. Just stay quiet. Keep talking to me. We're almost there. Then something happened on the line. A creak. Loud enough that it didn't sound like it came through the phone. It felt like it came from behind me. Adam gasped. It's opening. I wanted to say something back, but my brain stalled. My heart slammed against my ribs in these quick, uneven bursts. Adam, I started. He cut me off. Don't let it hear me. The line went silent except for his breathing. And then something else. Not exactly a breath. Not exactly a voice. Just this low, dragging sound. Like someone drawing in air through waterlogged lungs. I leaned closer to the mic without even realizing. The sound didn't belong to him. It was closer, deeper. And then he whispered something that didn't sound like it was meant for me. I can see its hands. That sentence. I didn't even process it in the moment. I was too focused on the fact that his voice was trembling like a wet match trying to stay lit. I heard a faint thud, something soft hitting the floor. Maybe the phone shifting in his hand. Then a sound I'll never forget, a long, slow exhale. But it wasn't coming from him. It was inside my headset. Not like background noise. Not like feedback. It was right there, pressed against the mic. I flinched so hard my chair squeaked. Adam, are you still there? He didn't answer right away. Then, in a voice so small it barely existed. Please don't hang up. I'm not going anywhere, I said quickly. But I think we both knew that wasn't true. Not in the way he meant it. The other sound, the one that wasn't him, grew sharper. More deliberate. Like someone breathing with intent. I typed into the system again, my hands shaking. Caller reports suspect is inside closet. Unknown breathing noises online. Dispatch confirmed the unit was almost there. I wanted to believe that meant something. But Adam's next words, they're not going to find it. His voice didn't sound scared anymore. Just resigned. Adam, listen to me. They can't see it. The way he said it, flat, certain, it made my skin feel too tight. There was another creak. Longer this time. The sound of something moving out of the closet. I couldn't breathe. My headset felt too hot, my ears ringing. Adam, where is it now? His breathing quickened. And then he said, in this broken little voice, right in front of me. I heard him inhale sharply, a gasp so close it made my chest ache. And then, the last noise. It wasn't a scream. It wasn't a word. It was a single, sharp exhale that blasted straight into my headset like someone leaning in and letting it out for me. Then the line went dead. I sat there, frozen, the dial tone buzzing in my ear until it faded into the system's idle hum. The responding unit called in minutes later. They said the house was locked from the inside. Front door, back door, windows, everything secure. They found the phone on the bedroom floor. No Adam, just a closet door. Wide open. I've been doing this job for long enough that most calls blend together. Fender benders, domestic disputes, drunks screaming about imaginary break-ins. You learn to filter through the noise. But every now and then, something cuts through, something that sticks in the back of your head, like a splinter you can't dig out. That night started like any other graveyard shift. The room was dim, just the bluish glow of monitors and the hum of the AC. The kind of hum that lulls you into that half-dream state, where the real world feels a little thin around the edges. It was a quiet hour, too quiet. You start to hate that silence because you know it won't last. It's like the pause between waves before something bigger crashes in. Then my headset beeped. 911. What's your emergency? For a moment, all I heard was breathing. Not panicked breathing, slow, uneven, like someone was trying to decide if they wanted to speak at all. Hello. I tried again. A man's voice finally came through, low and strained. I don't know where I am. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Okay. Can you tell me your name? Michael. His voice wavered. Please, you have to help me. I'm stuck somewhere. Somewhere. I repeated, already opening the location trace. Where exactly? I don't know, he said again, but his voice dropped to almost a whisper. It's small, tight, like a box. I can't sit up all the way. My eyes flicked to the trace data. Weak signal, bouncing off multiple towers. Great. Michael, I need you to look around, describe what you see. Any light? Any markings? There's what above me, he said. Like boards. Old ones. I think I can hear someone moving up there. That made me pause. Above you? Yeah. Crawling. I adjusted my headset. Michael, are you sure? It could be an animal. Rats, raccoons. No, he cut me off fast. It's not an animal. They're heavier. Slow. And he trailed off. And what? I asked. I think they're trying to be quiet. I didn't like the way he said that. I kept my voice steady. All right, we're going to figure this out. Can you tell me how you got there? Last thing you remember. There was a pause, too long. Then, I was walking home, cut through an alley. I heard something. Then, a shaky inhale. I woke up here. I sat back. That didn't sound like a guy who'd had too much to drink. His words were sharp, his fear precise. Michael, are you hurt? My legs feel numb. I think I've been here a while. That set off alarms in my head. A while could mean hours or longer. Then, soft in the background, I heard it. Through the faint static of the line, something else. A shift, a scrape, like weight shifting on old wood. I froze. Michael, is that the sound you've been hearing? His voice came back small. Yes, it's closer now. I muted my mic for a moment, flagging the supervisor to get a ping request through IT. The trace wasn't narrowing. We need better coordinates, maybe from cell triangulation. That would take minutes we might not have. When I unmuted, Michael whispered, I think they're lying down now. I didn't understand. What do you mean? They stopped moving. They're just above me. Breathing. That's when I realized the breathing I'd been hearing on the line wasn't just him. It was layered. One close to the mic, and one faint, heavier, coming through the air on his end. I swallowed. Michael, listen to me. You need to keep talking to me. Just focus on my voice, okay? Okay, he whispered. What's around you? Can you touch the walls? Yeah. What on both sides? Cold dirt under me. It's narrow, like a crawl space. Do you see any openings? No, just darkness. My phone's almost dead. I wanted to tell him help was already on the way, but we didn't even know where way was yet. The other breathing shifted again, soft, deliberate. What if they can hear me talking to you? Michael asked suddenly. Then we'll keep our voices low, I said, lowering mine to match his. You're not alone. I'm right here. Silence, except for those two sets of breaths, one in my ear, one far away, leaking through the wood above him. Then something new, a faint, rhythmic tap. Michael, do you hear that? Yes. His whisper cracked. They're tapping with their nails. On the boards. Above me. My skin prickled. Do you think they're trying to get your attention? I think his breath caught. I think they already have it. I flagged another operator, mouthed get the trace faster, and got back on. Michael, try to move. Any direction. Just a little. Tell me if you feel an opening, a change in air. He shifted. Wood creaked around him. There's something behind my head. Feels like metal. Like a pipe. Yeah. Thin. Cold. But it goes up into the boards. A vent, maybe. That might be a way for sound to carry through, I said. Can you? The tapping stopped. The heavier breathing paused. And then 3 slow thuds. From above. Michael's voice was barely audible now. They're moving away. For the first time, I let myself exhale. Okay. Good. That's good. You're safe for the moment. Just stay still and... No. The word hit me sharp. They're not leaving, he whispered. They're going around. I didn't understand until he added, there's more than one. Something in his tone, flat, certain, made my stomach drop. I was about to ask him how he knew when the line distorted, a harsh buzz in my ear. It was brief, like a pulse of static, and then his breathing came back, faster now. They're under me. I gripped the mic. What? You said you were on the bottom. I thought I was. But his words shook. I can hear them below, scraping, like they're digging. I stared at the console, useless. No exact location, no way to direct units without knowing where to send them. Michael, listen to me. Keep calm. We're going to find you. Can you? His phone made a dull clatter, like it had dropped. Then, right into the mic, came a sound I'll never forget. A wet, dragging inhale. Not his. Close enough that it hit the receiver directly. I thought he'd come back on. Say something. Anything. But all I heard after was silence. And that other breathing that I thought I'd heard desperation before. Working nights on the dispatch line, you hear a lot. The tremble in a voice, the breathless panic when something's gone horribly wrong. But this was different. It started with the silence. That kind of silence you get when the caller's there, but they're afraid to even breathe. Sir, I said into the headset, are you still with me? There was a faint rustle, like fabric brushing against something rough. And then a whisper. She's right above me. I froze, hand hovering over my keyboard. Who's above you? A woman. His voice cracked like it was painful to speak. I can hear her crawling. I didn't say anything right away. I just listened. And sure enough, in the quiet, I heard it too. A faint creak, slow and deliberate, like weight shifting on old boards. It didn't make sense. His last location ping had put him somewhere on the west side of town, in an old industrial block, a cluster of closed factories and a few abandoned offices. The kind of place that's been empty for years. Sir, what's your exact location? I asked. He hesitated. I don't know. I woke up here. It's a crawl space. I can't stand. I can't turn around. His breathing quickened. I've been calling for hours. Nobody answers. I thought I was underground, but the boards above us creaked again. But she's up there. My hand was already moving, pulling up maps, building layouts, old property records. Nothing in the coordinates matched a crawl space. The building that should have been at his location, on paper, was a single-story warehouse. No attic. No second floor. No space above his head for anything to crawl on. Okay, I said slowly, trying to keep my voice steady. Can you describe her? Have you seen her? No, a pause. Then, in that same trembling whisper, but she's getting closer. The creaks shifted. Not random anymore. They had a rhythm. A slow drag. A pause. Another drag. I turned up my headset volume. My skin crawled. The sound wasn't quite like footsteps. It was softer, wetter. I forced myself to focus. Sir, is there any way for you to move toward an exit? A vent? Anything. I've tried. It's too tight. I can't move without making noise. Okay, stay on the line with me. I'm sending someone to you. He let out a shaky breath. Don't hang up. Please. I didn't plan to. While I waited for the nearest unit to confirm they were en route, I kept pulling up more maps. Aerial photos. Zoning records. Nothing made sense. His GPS was accurate to within a few feet, but there was no record of any crawl space, no upper structure, no place for someone to be above him. Still, the sound continued. She's faster now, he whispered. She knows you're listening. I almost told him it was just his imagination. Stress. Panic. But I didn't. Because the truth was, it did sound closer. Something about the way it moved. It wasn't just coming toward him. It was circling. Then, out of nowhere, he let out a sharp breath, like he'd just seen something. What is it? I asked. She's tapping. I strain my ears. Sure enough, I caught it. 3 slow taps on the boards above him. Tap, tap, tap. Then silence. She's waiting, he breathed. Waiting for what? His answer sent a chill through me. For me to answer. I didn't even know how to respond. Every instinct in me said to keep him talking, keep him calm, but my own voice felt tight. You said you woke up there. Do you remember anything before that? He was quiet for a moment. Then, I was home. I went to bed. I thought I heard something in the walls. Next thing I know, I'm here. He said it like he was trying to convince himself it was true. Do you know the woman? I asked. I think she lives in the walls. The line crackled faintly. For a second, I thought we'd lost connection. Then very faintly, there was a new sound, a whisper. Not his. Not mine. I couldn't make out the words, but it was female. Soft. Close to the mic. Did you hear that? I asked. He made a sound. Part gasp, part sob. She's talking to you. Sir, I didn't hear. Yes, you did. His voice was breaking now. Tell her to stop. I opened my mouth, but before I could say anything, there was a sudden, violent thump from his end. The sound of wood splintering. She's right above me, he said again, but this time it wasn't a whisper. It was almost a prayer. The thumping grew louder. He was crying now, but trying to muffle it. The unit I dispatched was close. I told him. I promised him help was coming. No, he said. You don't understand. Understand what? I'm not supposed to leave. I froze. What do you mean? She said I belong here. That was the last thing he said before the line went dead. I tried calling back. Straight to silence. No ring. Just gone. When the responding officers got there, they found the exact spot his GPS had marked. And they were right. There was no crawl space. No boards above. Just concrete. Solid. And yet, the recording from my call still has the sound of her moving overhead. I've listened to it 100 times. Each time, it sounds like she's getting closer. And I swear, sometimes late at night when the building's quiet, I hear those same 3 taps above me that I had the address written down 3 times just to make sure. Once in my notebook, once on a call log, and once on the post-it I stuck to the side of the console, like a reminder that this was the one call I couldn't mess up. It was still dark outside, the kind of dark that presses against the windows and makes the room feel smaller. The air smelled like burnt coffee and cold electronics, and the quiet between calls had a weight to it. I kept listening for the static hum in my headset, half expecting him to come back on the line. The man from earlier. The one who swore there was a woman crawling right above him. I kept replaying his voice in my head. It wasn't panic, not exactly. It was tight, like he was trying not to let his fear leak out, because if he did, it would make something worse happen. The thing was, his location didn't match anything on our system. No apartment number, no outbuilding. Just an address. A single-story house in a part of town where half the streetlights had been dead for years. When the first responders rolled up, I patched them through, listening in. Dispatch. We're at location, Officer Brent said, his voice already carrying that guarded tone. Looks like a wrong address. We've got a boarded-up house here. Condemned. No lights, no power. Nobody's lived here in years. My stomach did a slow turn. That's the address the caller gave, I said, staring at it again, just to make sure. He said he was inside. He said she was above him. There was a pause, then Brent again. Dispatch. This place doesn't even have a crawl space. Roof's caved in on one side. There's nowhere for anyone to be above anybody. I didn't say anything. I just let the silence hang, because what was I supposed to say? That I believed him? That I could feel he wasn't lying? They went in anyway. You could hear their boots on the loose boards, the sound carrying through their open comms, brittle and echoing. Front room's clear. No furniture, just trash. Smells like mold, Brent said. Kitchen's the same, another voice added. There's rat droppings everywhere. No sign of anyone. I checked the timestamp from when the call came in. I've been talking to him for 12 minutes. He'd been whispering, holding his breath between sentences. I remember the way he stopped mid-word once, like he was listening. Then he'd said, she's right above me. And now here we were. An empty house. Dispatch, Brent said after a while. We're finding, well, something weird. Weird. In cop language, that's never good. He didn't explain right away. I could hear them moving, their voices low, the sound of flashlight being tapped against a palm. Finally, There's a mattress in the back room, just lying on the floor. No frame. Stains all over it. And, okay, there's a phone. Landline. Old rotary thing. It's just sitting here. I swallowed. There's no phone line running to the house, I said automatically. That area's been disconnected for. I know, Brent cut in. His voice was quieter now. But it's here. And it sits warm. That didn't make sense. Phones aren't warm unless they're in use. And this house didn't even have power. I think that was the moment I stopped telling myself this was just a weird call from a prankster or some drifter hiding in an abandoned place. Because something about the way Brent said warm, like it was alive, made my chest tighten. The other officer spoke up. Hey, Brent, there's something scratched into the wall. I could hear them moving closer, their boots crunching over broken glass. It's numbers. Over and over. Looks like an address. But he trailed off. But what? I said into the mic. It's not this address, Brent answered. I leaned closer to my screen. What is it then? He read it off. My fingers moved fast, pulling up property records. The location came up, another house, barely 2 blocks away. Same street, different number. The problem? That house had burned down 6 years ago. Brent cursed softly. Dispatch. You getting what I'm getting? I didn't answer right away. Because here's the thing. When you're trained to take calls like this, you learn to keep a calm tone no matter what. But in that moment, my voice felt trapped in my throat. The memory of the caller's whisper came back to me. Not just his words, but the way he seemed to know something was coming for him. She's moving again, he'd said at one point. I'd asked him where exactly. Right above. That last word had dragged out, like it hurt to say. And now I was sitting there, looking at an address for a house that didn't exist anymore, listening to officers walk through another house that also shouldn't have anything alive in it, but somehow did. Dispatch. Brent's voice came again, sharper now. We've got movement. I straightened up, every nerve buzzing. What kind of movement? There was a long pause. Then, ceiling. My eyes went to the monitor like it could help. Like I could see them if I stared hard enough. The other officer's voice cut in, quick and tight. No. It's in the walls. Scratching. Right here. They both went quiet for a beat, and I heard it through the comms. Faint. Like fingernails dragging against wood. Dispatch, Brent whispered. I thought you said there was no crawl space. There isn't, I said. My voice cracked. More scratching. Faster now. Then something like a thud above where they were standing. Brent swore under his breath. The other officer said, Okay, that's enough. We're clearing. They didn't argue about it. You could hear in their footsteps that they weren't walking. They were half running. When they got outside, their breathing was heavy. Brent clicked his mic again. Dispatch, we're going to need to secure this place. And you might want to get someone to check that other address. The burned one. I didn't answer right away, because in my mind, I could already picture it. Blackened timbers, caved-in roof, weeds growing through the floor. And maybe, if you stood quiet enough inside, you'd hear it too. The sound of something moving just out of reach. Brent's voice broke through my thoughts. Dispatch? You still there? Yeah, I said, but my voice sounded far away. Yeah, I'm here. I didn't tell them what I was thinking, that maybe the caller wasn't in any house. Maybe the thing he heard was never bound to one place. Maybe she moved between them. And maybe, just maybe, she'd already moved on that I didn't want to keep listening. That was the first thing that hit me. Not fear, not curiosity, just this deep, heavy feeling in my chest telling me I shouldn't hear what was on the other end. Like if I stayed connected too long, it would stick to me, somehow. But the line was open, and my headset was glued to my head. The man had gone quiet minutes ago. No more yelling. No more desperate breaths. No more frantic banging above him. Just the sound. That crawling. It was faint. So faint that I kept questioning if I was imagining it. A slow drag, like someone pulling their body forward across wood, with little scrapes that made me think of fingernails catching on splinters. Every few seconds, there was this dull thump, like a knee or an elbow hitting the floor. And it didn't stop. When he'd first gone silent, I thought maybe it was over, that maybe whatever was up there had gone away. But the sound didn't fade. It didn't move farther into the distance. If anything, it seemed closer, more deliberate. Unit 14, what's your status? I asked again, forcing my voice into that clipped, professional tone I'd learned. A burst of static. Then the voice of the officer in the field, sounding just as unsettled as I felt. "Dispatch, we've been through the whole place. There's no one here. House is gutted. No crawl space. No attic. And definitely nobody alive." I froze, staring at the sound meter on my console. The line was still open. The green bar kept spiking in these slow, steady intervals. Scrape, thump. Scrape, thump. "How are you not hearing this?" I whispered before realizing I'd said it out loud. "Copy that." "Nothing," I said quickly, my throat tight. "Just stay on scene." I didn't want to say it over the air. I didn't want them to think I was losing it. But in my ears, through the headset, the crawling went on. The worst part was that the man hadn't disconnected. His phone was still live. But there was no voice anymore, just the faint hiss of an open line and whatever was dragging itself toward the receiver. It's hard to explain how something so simple, a few quiet sounds, can make you feel like your skin's shrinking. It wasn't even loud, but I felt it in my teeth, in my jaw, in the back of my skull. Like my body knew what it was before my brain did, and it knew I shouldn't hear it. Minutes passed like hours. I kept expecting it to end, to hear a loud crash, or the phone drop, or the click of a hang-up. But there was nothing like that. Just the scrape, the thump, over and over. Sometimes it would pause for a few seconds, and I'd hold my breath, thinking maybe it was over. But then there'd be a faint shift, like weight settling, and the sound would start again. I thought about the address, the condemned house, the officer's voice saying there was no crawl space. So where was this sound coming from? "Dispatch to 14, I said again. Do you see a phone anywhere?" Static. Then negative. "We're not seeing any kind of device. It's empty, like stripped empty." I swallowed hard. My mind kept circling back to one thought, one I didn't want to say aloud. If the officers couldn't see a phone, then maybe the call wasn't coming from there at all. But then where? I muted my mic and looked around the room. The other dispatchers were busy, eyes locked on their own screens, dealing with their own emergencies. Nobody else was paying attention to my channel. The crawling filled my ears. I tried to focus on details, on anything that might give me a clue. Was it wood? It sounded like wood, not concrete. I pictured the floorboards in my grandmother's old house, warped and soft from age, creaking when you shifted your weight. That's what it reminded me of. And the rhythm, the deliberate pace. Whoever, or whatever, it was, they weren't rushing. It wasn't frantic anymore. It was patient, like it knew there was nowhere else to go. "Dispatch, you copy?" The officer's voice jolted me back. "Go ahead. We're clearing out. Nothing here." Whoever made that call, they weren't at this address. I almost told him to wait. I almost said I still had the line open, that there was something here. But the words wouldn't come. The truth was, I didn't know if it was here. When the officers signed off, the background noise in my headset shifted. Without the static of the radio channel, the crawling felt even more exposed. Every tiny scrape was crystal clear now. And then, I heard something else. A breath. It was faint, so faint I thought maybe it was just the sound of the line itself. But then it came again, longer this time. A slow inhale. A pause. Then an exhale, shaky and uneven. Someone was still there. I leaned forward, my lips almost touching the mic. "Hello? Can you hear me?" No response. Just that dragging sound and the occasional breath. My own breathing started to match theirs without me meaning to. Short, shallow. I hated that. I hated feeling pulled into their rhythm. I tried again. "Sir, are you hurt? Can you tell me where you are?" Nothing. The scrape came again, closer now. I could hear the weight of it. I could almost picture it, arms pulling forward, elbows hitting wood, legs trailing uselessly behind. I squeezed my eyes shut and shook my head. "This isn't real," I whispered to myself. "It's interference. Some kind of loop. But the thing about loops is they repeat exactly. And this didn't. The pattern shifted just slightly each time. Sometimes faster, sometimes slower. Sometimes there was a pause, like it was listening to me. I don't know how long I sat there. Maybe 10 minutes. Maybe more. My screen still showed the call connected. The time counter kept ticking upward. At one point, I thought I heard the faintest scrape of nails on plastic, like fingers brushing a phone casing. My stomach turned cold. I didn't want to think about that hand, about how close it must be to the receiver now. I wanted to end the call. I really did. My finger hovered over the button more than once. But there was something about cutting it off that felt wrong. Like hanging up would give it permission to move faster. So I stayed. At some point, I realized my hand was trembling. Not shaking violently, just this tiny tremor I couldn't stop. I set my hand in my lap to hide it, but it didn't go away. And then, without warning, the sound changed. The scraping stopped. For a second, I thought maybe the line had finally gone dead. But I could still hear the faint hiss of open air. And then I heard it, one slow, deliberate step. Not a crawl. A step, like it had gotten up. "Sir," my voice cracked. "Talk to me. Please." Silence. Another step. Closer. I could hear the faint rustle of fabric, the creak of floorboards under shifting weight. My nails dug into my palm, so hard I felt the sting of skin breaking. And then, nothing. No breathing. No scraping. No steps. Just the faint, static hiss of an open line. The silence was worse than the noise. It stretched out until my own pulse was the loudest thing in my head. And then, right in my ear, a low, almost playful exhale. I yanked the headset off so hard it nearly ripped the cord out. My supervisor gave me this look from across the room, like I'd just broken protocol. And I probably had, but I didn't care. I stared at the console. The call was still live. The time counter still climbing. I reached out, slowly, and pressed the speaker button instead. The sound filled my little section of the room, barely audible unless you were really listening. Nobody else noticed. But I heard it. The crawling was back. I don't know how it was possible. The officers had left. The house was empty. And yet, here it was still moving. Not fast. Not slow. Just steady. Like it knew exactly how far it had to go. And for the first time, I had this horrible thought, one I'd been avoiding all night. What if it wasn't crawling toward him anymore? What if it was crawling toward me? I couldn't shake it. That thought rooted itself in my mind and refused to leave. Every sound through that open line felt aimed. Each scrape was like a hand pulling it closer to wherever I was sitting. I tried to rationalize it. I told myself it was some old recording bleeding through. Maybe another dispatcher somewhere had patched me into a weird test channel by mistake. But deep down, I didn't believe it. The sound wasn't fading. If anything, it was getting clearer. Eventually, I did hang up. I don't even remember making the decision. My hand just moved and the line went dead. The silence afterward was almost painful, like my ears were straining to find it again. I told myself it was over. That whatever it was, I'd cut it off. But I couldn't shake the feeling that the call hadn't really ended. Not for me. Even now, sitting here, I swear I can still hear it. That slow drag. That dull thump. Getting closer. I've worked night shift for years, and I thought I'd heard every kind of fear a voice can hold. I was wrong. It was just after 2 a.m., the lull between the drunks and the early risers. The dispatch room was quiet except for the hum of the fluorescent light above me. I was half reading a maintenance report when the call came in. The voice didn't start with hello. Didn't start with an address. It started with breathing. Fast. Uneven. Then a man whispered, "Please, tell me you can hear me." I straightened in my chair. "This is County Dispatch." "I hear you, sir. What's your emergency?" A pause. A sound like he turned his head to check something outside the phone. Then, "I'm on County Line Road. I don't know the number. I think my car died." That wasn't unusual. Flat tires. Engine trouble. People breaking down out in the sticks. But then he added, "There's no light. Anywhere." I glanced at the digital clock on the wall. "It's late, sir. Some roads don't have street lamps." He cut me off. "No, you don't understand. I mean, there's no light. No stars. No moon. Even my headlights, they went out." I clicked my pen nervously, pulling up the road map on my monitor. County Line was a long, empty strip between cornfields and old oak woods, maybe 20 miles end to end. Not much cell coverage out there. I was lucky the call even connected. "All right," I said, keeping my voice calm. "Is your phone light working?" Another pause. "It should be, but it's dim, like something's taking it." I didn't know what to make of that. "Sir, are you injured?" He let out a short laugh, the kind people make when they're trying not to lose it. "I'm not hurt. I'm just not alone." Something cold prickled along my arms. What do you mean, not alone? He whispered now. There are shadows moving outside my car. I gripped my headset tighter. Sir, if you're in danger, lock your doors. Stay inside until help arrives. I'm dispatching a unit now. No, listen. His voice rose, then fell again like he was forcing himself to stay quiet. They're not people. I don't think they're even real. I heard it then. A faint sound through the line. Not footsteps. Not breathing. Something softer, like cloth dragging along asphalt. Can you describe them? I asked. He swallowed audibly. They're tall, but not solid. The dark got up and started walking. The fluorescent light above me flickered, and I felt a knot in my stomach. I muted the line just long enough to radio Officer Mallory, who was closest to county line. She said she'd head out immediately. When I unmuted, the man was still talking. They keep getting closer. Every time I blink, they're closer. I'm trying not to, oh God. His breath hitched hard. One of them just touched the window. I could hear something faint, like a fingertip sliding over glass. Only it wasn't skin on glass. It was softer. Wrong. Like wet leaves. What's your name, sir? I asked, needing to anchor him. Evan. All right, Evan. Keep your eyes on me. Just my voice. We got someone on the way. Don't open the doors. Don't look away for too long. He gave a shaky laugh. I don't think they need me to look away. Something in his tone made my chest tighten. Why? Because they're still moving, even when I'm staring right at them. The light above me hummed louder, and for a moment I thought I saw movement in the glass of the dispatch room's dark window. Just my reflection, I told myself. Just tired eyes. Where exactly on county line are you? I asked, but I knew he probably didn't know. That road was endless, and GPS signals out there were useless. I passed that old grain tower about 10 minutes before the car died, he said. There's a line of trees on both sides now. The dark in there, it's thicker, like you could choke on it. He whispered again. They don't like the light from my phone, but it's fading fast. I told him to hold it close, keep it pointed at the glass. But the dragging sound was louder now. More than one of them. Evan, I want you to stay on the line. Keep talking to me. I can see their faces now. That sentence chilled me worse than anything else. What do they look like? They don't have eyes. Just open skin. Like the dark burned holes where their eyes should be. And their mouths. His voice broke. I heard tapping. Soft. Then more. From different sides of the car. They're smiling, he whispered. My throat was dry. Evan, help is minutes away. Do not. A loud noise cut me off. Metal flexing. Like something pressing on the roof of the car. They're climbing on me, Evan said. His voice was shaking hard now. There's one on the hood. Its head is wrong. Like it's stretched. It's looking right at me. I heard him fumbling with something, probably his phone light. Then he shouted. They hate it. It's pulling back. But the relief was short. His breathing turned frantic again. No. There's more coming from the trees. I can hear them in the leaves. They're faster now. The call was filled with sound, dragging, tapping, something like nails on the roof. Evan, stay inside. Lock the doors. They're not opening the doors, he said, voice almost a sob. They're waiting for the light to die. And then silence. Not total. I could still hear faint movement, but Evan wasn't speaking. Evan, are you there? Nothing. Evan, answer me. A whisper came through. Not his voice. Something lower. Too low for a human throat. It said something I couldn't understand. A word stretched and warped. The line crackled. Then Evan's voice came back, screaming. They're inside. I sat up straight, my headset nearly slipping. Evan. The phone hit something, maybe the floor, and I heard chaos. Breathing that wasn't his. The sound of fabric tearing. Then another sound I'll never forget. It was like someone sucking air out of the room. And then the dragging. Still there. Still moving. The line didn't cut out. I kept it open, listening, calling his name over and over. But the only reply was the sound of those things shifting around in the dark. By the time Mallory reached the spot, his car was there, door open, phone on the seat. No sign of Evan. She said her headlights worked fine. Said the sky was clear, stars everywhere. But she also said something I'll never put in an official report. When she got back in her cruiser, she checked her dash cam footage. In the few seconds before she pulled up, before her headlights lit the car, something tall was moving away from the road. Something she swears was darker than the night around it. The first thing I noticed was the sound of his breathing. It wasn't the panicked, sharp inhale of someone who just realized they were in trouble. It was slow, too slow, like he was holding each breath a little longer than normal, just to hear if something else was breathing with him. "Sir, are you still with me?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. My headset crackled faintly, the faint hum of the dispatch room behind me drowned by the silence on his end. A beat passed. Then, in a whisper so quiet I almost thought I imagined it, he said, "Yeah, I'm here." I could picture him, somewhere out there on that black, empty road. A rural stretch so far from the grid that even the moonlight couldn't find him. "Good," I told him, leaning forward over the desk. "Just stay on the line with me, all right? You said you're in your car." "Yes." His voice was steady now, but there was something off about it, like he was measuring each word. "Are your doors locked?" I asked. "They are," he said quickly. "Too quickly." "Good. Keep them locked. Don't get out of the car for any reason until help arrives." Silence again. Then, "How long will that be?" I checked the screen. The nearest unit was still more than 15 minutes out, weaving through those narrow county back roads. Out there, 15 minutes might as well be an hour. "They're on their way," I said, trying to sound more certain than I felt. "Just stay where you are." "Don't." He cut me off. "I'm not getting out." The way he said it, not defensive, not impatient, just certain. Like he was already holding on to the last rule, keeping him alive. I let a few seconds pass before asking, "What can you see right now?" "I turned off the headlights," he said. "It's better that way." That didn't make sense. Why would? They were drawing it closer. I froze. Drawing what closer? I could hear him swallowing on the other end. There was a faint tap-tap in the background, like something brushing against glass. "I don't know what it is," he said finally, "but it moves different. It's not like walking." I scribbled a note on my pad, my pen trembling slightly. "Not human." "Where is it now?" I asked. "Close." His voice was almost a breath now. I can feel it through the glass, like it's leaning on the car. And then, right on cue, I heard it. Not over the headset, in the way you hear a person speak, but in that faint, skin-crawling static the microphone picked up when something moved too close. It was soft, like the slow drag of fabric against metal. "Sir, you need to stay calm," I told him, my own voice tightening. "Keep your eyes forward. Don't look at it." He let out a short, nervous laugh that didn't sound like laughter at all. "You think I want to look at it?" There was another sound now, not dragging, but tapping. Light, irregular taps along the glass, like a fingernail testing the surface. "Is that outside your window?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "Yes," he whispered. And then, so faint I almost missed it, "It knows my name." A chill went through me. "What do you mean?" "It whispered it," he said, his voice breaking now, right against the glass. I gripped my pen tighter, my notes devolving into a mess of jagged lines. "Sir, I need you to listen to me. Whatever happens, do not open the door, do not roll down the window, and—" "It's moving," he said suddenly. Around the back now. The tapping faded. I could hear him shifting in his seat, trying to track it without turning his head. "What's your name?" I asked him, partly to keep him talking, partly to remind him there was another voice here with him. "David." "All right, David. You're doing good. Just focus on my voice." "Where's it now?" "Passenger side," he said quickly. "It's tall. I can't see it, but it's taller than the car." I can tell. The tone in his voice made my stomach knot. He wasn't guessing. He knew. "Don't look," I repeated. "Just sit still. Breathe." "How far away are the lights of the nearest house?" "There aren't any." It took me a second to realize what he meant. "No lights at all?" I asked. "No. The whole road's dark. Whole county, I think." I remembered what he'd said earlier, the headlights drawing it closer. And a part of me, the rational part, wanted to dismiss it as panic. But the other part, the part that had heard that strange brushing sound, knew better. The brushing returned, louder this time, running along the length of the car, slow and deliberate. David's breathing hitched. It's touching the handle. My heart was pounding now. "David, listen to me. Lean away from that door. Press yourself against the opposite seat. Stay quiet." There was a faint creak in the background, like pressure on metal. "It's testing it," he whispered. "It's trying to see if it opens." For a second, All I could hear was the faint hum of the dispatch room. Then, without warning, a sharp thunk came through the line. David flinched so hard I heard the seat springs. It hit the glass. "Stay calm," I said quickly. "It's trying to scare you. Don't get what it wants." He didn't answer. I could hear him breathing hard, but beneath it, something else. A faint, almost human exhale, right next to the phone. "David," I said carefully, "where's your phone right now?" "In my hand," he said. "Not against the window?" "No." The exhale came again, but louder. It wasn't on his end. It was in the call. And then it said, in a voice low and wrong, "David." The line went dead quiet. I didn't even realize I'd stood up until the chair rolled back. My pulse was roaring in my ears. "David," I said sharply. "David." "I heard it," he whispered finally. "Where?" "Behind me." The words were like ice water down my spine. "You said it was on the passenger side." It was. I looked at the timer. Units were still 7 minutes away. "David, I need you to do something for me. Keep your eyes forward. Whatever you do, don't turn around." His voice cracked. "It's breathing on my neck." My hand was white-knuckled on the desk now. "Do not move. Do not speak unless I ask you to. Just..." And then, 3 slow taps against the driver's side window. He gasped. "It's outside again." But I knew better. The voice I'd heard wasn't leaving the car. "David," I said slowly, "are you sure both doors are locked?" "Yes." I checked. The taps came again, but this time from both sides. I felt cold all over. "David, how many doors does your car have?" "4. "And how many do you hear?" A pause. "All of them." I didn't know what to say to that. The sound wasn't frantic. It wasn't trying to get in. It was more like it was reminding him it could. The static on the line deepened, like a storm was building between us. David's voice was barely audible when he spoke again. "I think it wants me to run." "You're not running," I told him firmly. "You leave that car, you're giving it exactly what it wants. But if I stay..." "David, stay with me." He went silent. Too silent. "David." And then, quietly, he said, "I can see it in the mirror." I gripped the mic so hard it hurt. "Don't look at it." "I'm not. It's leaning over the trunk. It's too close. It's not moving right." The line popped, a burst of distortion that made me flinch. Through it, I could hear him muttering under his breath. "What are you saying?" I asked. "I'm telling it I'm not afraid." The brushing sound was back, circling, circling. I saw the unit marker flash on the map, 2 minutes out. "David, listen. Help is almost there. You just need to stay put. No matter what it does, don't." A deep metallic clang cut me off, loud enough to make the line spike. "It's on the roof," he whispered. I heard the faint flex of metal, the slow shift of weight. "David, keep your head down. They're almost there." It's whispering again. What's it saying? He swallowed. "It's telling me to unlock the door." The line began to crackle hard, voices overlapping, some his, some not. "David, listen to me. Do not move." "I think it's smiling," he said, almost like he was talking to himself. "I can't see it, but I know it is." And then, red and blue lights in the distance on my screen. "They're there, David. Stay put. Do not." The sound of a door latch snapping open cut me off. "David." The line filled with rushing air, his footsteps pounding on dirt, and behind it, something that didn't sound like footsteps at all. And then nothing. Just dead air. I kept my voice steady, even though my heart was crawling up into my throat. "All right, you're doing good," I told him. "Just keep your doors locked. Whatever you do, don't." That's when I heard it. It wasn't him. It wasn't me. It was a third voice on the line. Deep. Slow. Like it came from somewhere below the floor. "Open the door." The man on the other end, his name was Chris, he told me earlier, made a sound I'll never forget. It wasn't a scream. It wasn't a word. Just this animal whimper, sharp and quick, like the air had been punched out of him. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. My mouth was dry. "Yeah," I said carefully. "I heard it. Was that someone with you?" "No," he said instantly. "Too fast. Too certain. There's no one in here. I'm alone. I locked the doors like you said. All the windows are shut." But his voice was trembling, and I could hear his breathing getting faster again. "Chris," I said slowly, "I need you to tell me if there's anyone else inside the car." "There's not," he whispered, and then, almost to himself, "It's outside." The line went quiet for a few seconds, except for the wet sound of his breathing. Then, faintly, so faint I almost thought I imagined it, came the scrape. Like nails, or maybe branches, dragging against glass. I heard him mutter something barely audible. It's going around. My pulse picked up. What's going around? It's moving. Around the car. I can hear it. It's slow, like it's feeling its way. It's brushing the doors. I try to keep my voice calm. Stay with me, Chris. Just keep talking to me, okay? Don't look if you don't have to. Another pause. Then, it's at the back window now. And then again, that voice. Louder this time. Closer to the phone, like it was leaning right against his window and somehow into the call at the same time. Open the door. I felt cold deep in my stomach. I'd been a dispatcher for years. I'd heard people in danger, people screaming, people dying. But this wasn't any of those things. It wasn't just a voice. It was thick, like it pushed into your head and pressed down on your thoughts. It didn't sound like it was asking. It sounded like it was telling. Chris, I said quickly, do not open that door. Do you understand me? I'm not, he whispered, but his voice cracked. I'm not. Something hard thumped against the side of his car. Not a knock, not a fist, more like a shoulder. A slow, heavy push making the metal groan. He gasped. It's right there. The sound moved again, sliding along the car, up toward his window. I could hear it, that faint, rough glide like something scraping along the paint. I tightened my grip on the headset. Units are on the way. Just keep still. Don't respond to it. It knows my name, Chris blurted out. I froze. What do you mean? He swallowed hard, his breath shaky. It just said it, right before you talked. It said my name. The voice came again. This time it wasn't just open the door. It was Chris. Open the door. I felt a sharp jolt in my chest. Chris, I said, trying to anchor him, it's just trying to scare you. That's all it's doing. Don't give it what it wants. His breathing was so fast now, it was almost static. What does it know my name? I didn't answer. I couldn't, because the truth was, I didn't know. There was a long stretch of silence between us, except for the faint scraping. I thought maybe it was moving away. And then something happened that I still can't explain. I heard myself, not like an echo, not like a playback, my own voice, speaking from somewhere in the dark around his car. Chris, it said, in my tone, my exact inflection, it's safe now. You can open the door. Chris let out a broken sound, halfway between a sob and a yell. That's you, he said. No, I said instantly. No, that's not me. I'm right here. I'm in the call center. Chris, I'm not outside your car. But I could tell from the way he was breathing that he didn't fully believe me. Because I didn't fully believe me either. He was whispering something now, fast and jumbled like a prayer. The scrape came again. This time it stopped directly beside his door. Chris, open the door. I could hear his seat creak like he'd leaned back, pressing himself into it. Then a sharp tap on glass. And another. Slow. Measured. Like it was counting. Don't move, I said firmly. Don't even breathe if you don't have to. The tapping stopped. Then the voice, low and slow, came again. But now it wasn't just words. It was humming. A deep, steady hum that seemed to vibrate in my teeth through the headset. Chris whimpered. I don't like it. You're fine. I lied. You're still safe in there. And then the hum stopped. A moment later, the deep voice said something new. It's already open. Chris's breath caught. No, he whispered. No, it's not. I heard the faintest click from his end, like the sound of a lock sliding up. He made a strangled gasp. I didn't do that. I didn't. The phone rattled suddenly like he'd grabbed it and pressed it tight to his mouth. It's opening the handle. I heard the metallic clink, the weather strip creak, the faint rush of air. And then, silence. Long, heavy. I sat there, gripping the headset so hard my knuckles hurt. Chris, I said. No answer. Just faint static like the call was still alive, but no one was there. And then, in a voice just like his, broken, trembling, I heard, I'm fine now. It wasn't him. I know that. It wasn't him. But the call didn't drop. The line stayed connected for another minute, filled with nothing but the sound of someone breathing slowly into the phone. And at the very end, just before the units arrived on scene, the deep voice came back one last time. Not to Chris. To me. You'll open the door too. It's strange how silence can feel louder than noise. That's the first thing I remember when the power came back. 1 second, the world was pitch black. The next, it wasn't. But it didn't feel like relief. I was still on the line, still leaning forward in my chair like it might help me hear him better. My headset pressed tight against my ear, my eyes locked on the monitor that showed nothing but the call timer ticking up and up. The last thing he'd said before it all went quiet was, "No, I'm not repeating it." The voice hadn't been his. Not that strained, trembling man who'd first called me from the car. Not the one who'd whispered about the shadows. It was something deeper, slower, like it wasn't even made for speaking. And it told him to, "No, I'm not saying it." When the lights came back, the station's hum returned all at once. Computers booting, fluorescent tubes flickering awake, fans and printers coughing back to life. But it didn't make me feel safer. If anything, it made the space feel smaller. Dispatch lit up with chatter from the other consoles. People checking on their calls, comparing notes about what they'd lost during the outage. Somewhere behind me, I could hear Reynolds, the night shift supervisor, swearing under his breath as he tried to restart the main system. I didn't join in. I couldn't, because his line was still open. That blinking little red dot on my screen meant he hadn't hung up. Or couldn't. I swallowed hard and said his name. Nothing. I tried again, a little louder this time. I told him emergency crews were almost there, that the power was back, that everything was okay now. And right as I said the word okay, I realized how stupid it sounded. Because whatever I'd heard before the blackout, that wasn't going to go away just because the streetlights came on. Through the headset, I could hear something faint. Not breathing, not exactly. More like the sound of a slow wind passing over something hollow. And then, the click. Not the disconnect tone. Not a hang-up. Just a soft little click in the distance. The first responder to reach the scene was Officer Green. I'd worked with him before. One of those steady, even-tempered guys who never seemed shaken by anything. When I patched him through to me, his voice was the same as always. Calm. Controlled. Until it wasn't. Dispatch. I'm at the location. I see the vehicle. Pause. Driver's side door is open. My throat tightened. I asked him to confirm, because sometimes in the heat of things, people say the wrong side or mix up details. But no. Driver's side. Definitely open. Car's empty. I don't know why, but my first thought was that he'd gotten out to meet them. That maybe, in the last few seconds of the blackout, he'd seen the flashing lights and decided to get out. But Green's next words killed that theory. Keys are still in the ignition. Engine's running. I didn't say anything. Just typed it into the log because that's what you're trained to do. Keep it factual, keep it clean. But in my head, I could see it. The dark rural road, the old sedan, the door yawning open like a pulled tooth. That empty driver's seat. Green moved closer. I could hear his footsteps through the open mic on his radio. Gravel crunching under boots. Then a small grunt as he leaned in. Dispatch, you're not going to like this. I didn't want to ask, but I had to. What do you see, Green? Another pause. Longer this time. Finally. Seats warm. He was here seconds ago. More units arrived within minutes. Another patrol car. Then an ambulance that had been rerouted from a nearby call. The paramedics stood by with their gear, waiting for the okay to search the area. Green and the others fanned out with flashlights, sweeping the road, the ditch, the tree line. Nothing. No footprints in the soft dirt. No broken branches. No trail into the woods. It was like he'd stepped out of the car and just stopped existing. And the weirdest part? The moment they arrived, the air shifted. Green swore it was like walking into a place that had been dead still for hours. No breeze, no bugs, not even the distant sound of night animals. He said it felt wrong in a way he couldn't explain, like something was watching them from too close to see. The headlights from their cruisers stretched out over the road, and for the first time, that stretch of county line didn't look like a void anymore. But somehow, the light didn't make it feel less empty. It made it feel staged, like it was all lit up for someone else's benefit. I stayed on the line longer than I should have. Even after Green told me they were clearing the scene, I couldn't bring myself to disconnect. Part of me thought maybe if I kept it open, I'd hear him come back. Or hear it. The line stayed silent. But every now and then, I thought I could hear a faint shift, like someone just moving their weight from one foot to the other. It might have been my own breathing, or it might have been. Eventually, I hung up. Not because I wanted to, because I had to. Reynolds came over about 5 minutes later, leaning against my desk with that look supervisors get when they're trying to decide whether to write you up or just let it slide. He asked if I was good. I told him I was fine, but I wasn't. I could still hear that other voice in my head, that deep, patient one. And worse, I could hear what it said. Not to me, but to him. Open the door. I didn't sleep the next day. Couldn't. I went home after my shift, closed all my blinds, locked the door, and just sat there with my phone in my hand. Every time I thought about calling someone, I stopped. What was I supposed to say? That I'd heard a voice on the line that didn't belong to anyone? That a man disappeared in front of first responders without leaving a trace? That the only proof was the warmth left behind in the seat? No one would believe me. And yet, part of me wonders if that's exactly why it happened. Because no one would. 2 nights later, I got another call. Different number. Different voice. But the way it started, the line clicked. Not a ring. Not a tone. Just a click like someone was already there, waiting. And in that half-second of silence before the caller spoke, I swear I heard it. That same slow wind over something hollow. It wasn't him. But it wasn't not him either. I've been thinking a lot about that night. About the timing of it all. The blackout starting when it did. The responders getting there, just as the lights came back. The fact that his door was open, not smashed, not forced. Just open like he'd been invited out. I keep wondering if the blackout wasn't the cause. What if it was the cover? What if whatever was out there couldn't come close until everything went dark? And now I keep imagining what would have happened if I'd been the one in that car. Because when I picture it, I don't see myself running. I see myself stepping out. Not because I want to, but because I have to. Because that's what the voice wants. And when it tells you to open the door, you do. That's the thing that keeps me up now. Not the mystery, not even the fear. It's that deep, patient tone still curling around the back of my mind, still waiting for me to be in the dark. And sometimes, when I'm walking from my car to my apartment at night, I can almost hear it again. Slow, calm, certain. Open the door. IT was just past midnight when the call came in. The kind of hour where your mind drifts, your eyes get heavy, and the office feels like it's breathing with you. The dispatch floor was quiet that night. Just me, 2 empty desks to my left, a coffee cup that had gone cold an hour ago. The fluorescent lights above made that low, electric hum that you stop noticing until you're the only one there. I remember leaning back in my chair, spinning lazily, scrolling through the shift log on my screen. The last call had been a false alarm, a kid playing with his parents' phone. I was expecting the next one to be something like that too. Then the line lit up. It wasn't urgent at first glance. Number 911 hang up. No loud background noise. Just a slow, steady connection. I answered the way I always do, my voice automatic. 911, what's your emergency? There was nothing. Just a faint sound, not static exactly, more like someone was breathing through a thick blanket. I repeated myself, a little louder. And then a whisper. Can you see her? It was so soft, I almost thought I imagined it. My finger hovered over the volume knob, turning it up until the voice filled my headset. Ma'am, are you safe? Can you tell me where you are? The whisper came again, this time more urgent. No, just can you see her? My first instinct was that this was someone mentally unstable, maybe high, maybe in some kind of crisis. That happens. People call 911 for things that aren't tangible. They see things no one else sees. I started to guide her through the usual, where she was if she was alone, if she needed police or medical. But she cut me off. She's standing in the corner. Right there. I know you see her too. Something about the way she said it made my mouth go dry. It wasn't pleading. It wasn't panicked. It was certain. I looked up from my screen without thinking. The dispatch room was exactly as it had been 2 seconds ago. A row of empty desks, the big wall clock, the far corner with a shadow pulled a little deeper because the light fixture was dimmer there. I told myself it was nothing. Just the kind of thing your brain does when someone plants an image in your head. But I still glanced at that corner again. It was empty. I leaned forward into the mic. Ma'am, I don't see anyone here. Can you tell me where you are? She didn't answer right away. I could hear her breathing. Shaky. Controlled. Like she was afraid if she made too much noise, something would hear her. "You do see her," she whispered again. "Don't lie to me." The hair on my arms prickled. This wasn't like the usual hallucination calls. Those people are scattered, their words all over the place. This woman's voice was steady, cold. I typed a quick note into the log. Female caller, possibly hallucinating, requesting visual confirmation of woman in corner. Sent a ping to the other operator on shift, but no one responded. "Ma'am," I tried again. "I'm here to help, but I need to know your address." "She's closer now." My skin went tight. I heard the words, but I couldn't stop my eyes from flicking to the corner again. Empty. I reminded myself of the basics. People say strange things under stress. You don't internalize them. You stick to the protocol. But my chest felt heavier with every second of silence on the line. I asked again for her location. "She's right behind you." I froze. That one hit me like ice water down my back. It was an automatic, stupid thing. My chair creaked as I turned slow, scanning the room. Nothing. Just the same stale air, the hum of the lights, the flicker of my monitor. I almost laughed at myself just to break the tension, but the sound died in my throat when she spoke again. "Don't turn around so fast." She doesn't like being seen. There was no movement in the room, but I swear to God it felt different now. Like the air had thickened. Like I wasn't alone. I told her there was nobody here. My voice sounded steady, but my fingers were gripping the desk so tight they ached. "She's been here the whole time," the caller said. "She's been here longer than you think." I checked the call trace. No location. No number, even just private caller flashing where the ID should be. That doesn't happen often. Not on this system. I started typing a note to flag the tech team when she whispered something I didn't understand at first. A string of words, too quiet, too fast. I asked her to repeat it. "She's asking me to ask you something." I didn't want to know, but I asked anyway. "She wants to know if you remember her." I swear my stomach dropped. There was no reason for it, but the question punched through me like it wasn't meant for a stranger. "I don't know what you mean," I said. "She says you do." I sat there, the clock ticking loud in my ears. I tried to think of something else to say, some way to steer this call back to normal. But the line went dead. No click, no beep. Just silence. I took off my headset and listened to the empty room. And then, there was the faintest sound from the corner. Like a single footstep that I didn't sleep after that call. I told myself it was just some creep, some lonely, messed up person with too much time on their hands. We get them all the time. Late night shifts attract the kind of people who know you can't just hang up. People who want attention, who want to rattle you. But I couldn't stop hearing his voice. That whisper. "Do you see her too?" It wasn't just the words, it was the way he said them, like he was sharing something with me. Not threatening, not even pleading, just confirming. Like we were already in the same room. I went home around 6 in the morning, showered, sat on my bed, and stared at the corner of my room for a while. I told myself I was being stupid. I didn't see anyone. No woman. No shadow. Just the same peeling paint I've been meaning to fix for years. I thought I was fine. I even laughed at myself. But when I came back for my next shift the following night, something in the room felt different. It was quieter than usual. Not the normal, tired quiet of a night shift. This was heavier. Like the air was thicker. My headset felt colder when I put it on. My chair creaked a little too loudly. I tried to brush it off. Logged in. Checked the call queue. Half an hour in, the phone rang. No number, just unknown caller. My stomach tightened. I almost didn't answer. But protocol is protocol. 911. "What's your emergency?" It was the same voice. Same soft, whisper-thin tone. "Don't move." I froze. "Sir, what is your emergency?" A pause. "She's behind you." I didn't want to react. I kept my voice steady. "Sir, if you're in danger, I need you to tell me where you are." "She's right there," he said. "I can see your headset, the little crack on the left side. Your chair, the black one with the scrape on the armrest. And your desk, your coffee's still half full." I didn't move. My heart pounded in my ears. "Sir," I said slowly, "how do you know that?" "She's leaning over you," he whispered. "Her hair's almost touching your shoulder." I could feel the weight of the air shift behind me, like someone was standing too close. Every instinct screamed at me to turn around, but I didn't. "Sir," I said, "are you inside the building?" He chuckled, quiet, like he didn't want to wake someone. No, she is. My skin went cold. I forced my voice into something firm, professional. I'm ending this call if you don't. She's smiling, he said. She wants you to know I'm not lying. Something brushed my shoulder. I stood up so fast my headset cord almost yanked the whole console off the desk. The chair rolled back. There was nothing there. The corner of the room was empty. My supervisor, Denise, leaned over from her station and gave me a look. You okay? Yeah, I lied. I didn't tell her what happened. You don't do that here. If you crack, they pull you off nights. And nights pay better. The rest of the shift felt wrong. Every time I adjusted my headset, I thought about what he said. About the crack in the plastic, the scrape on the armrest. Things you'd only know if you'd seen my desk. But the building is locked after hours. You need a badge to get in. Around 3 a.m., I found myself glancing at the security camera in the corner of the room. The little red light blinked, steady and calm. I thought about asking the night guard to check the feeds, but I didn't want to explain why. By the end of my shift, I'd almost convinced myself it was just a coincidence. He could have guessed. Headsets crack, coffee cups are common. Just lucky guesses. Still, when I went home, I shoved my desk chair into my bedroom closet. I didn't want to wake up and see it in the corner. The next night, I wasn't even 30 minutes into my shift before the phone rang again. Same unknown caller. I took a breath. Answered. 911. What's your emergency? You move your chair, he said. I gripped the receiver harder. What? At home, he whispered. You pushed it into the closet. I stared at my monitor. My throat felt dry. How do you? She doesn't like closets, he said. I muted my mic for a second, just to breathe. My hands were shaking. When I unmuted, I tried to sound steady. Sir, if this is a prank. I'm just telling you, he interrupted. She's in the room with you again. I think she likes you. I didn't say anything. She's behind you, he said softly. She's closer tonight. I could hear my own breathing in the headset. I could hear his. And under that, I swear I heard something else. Slow, deliberate breathing that wasn't mine, wasn't his. She's leaning, he whispered. She wants to see what you're typing. I didn't move. I didn't turn. She's wearing the same dress, he said. White, wrinkled, like she's been lying in it for a long time. I muted the mic again and glanced over at Denise. She was looking down at her screen, typing something, completely unaware. I unmuted. Sir, I'm asking you again. Are you inside this building? He didn't answer right away. Then, she's going to touch you now. The back of my neck went cold. I yanked my headset off and stood up. The call cut to silence in my ears. The room looked normal. Too normal. I sat back down, heart hammering. The line was dead. By the fourth night, I was dreading the call. Every time the phone rang, I felt my stomach twist. Most were normal. Car accidents, drunk fights, someone's dog got loose. But I kept waiting for that voice. It came at 2:17 a.m. 911. What's your emergency? A breath. Then, she's right behind you. I slammed the call to speaker mode and shoved the phone toward Denise. Listen. She frowned but leaned in. The man's voice was calm. She's wearing a different dress tonight. Black. You look tired. You didn't sleep much. Denise gave me a confused look. Who is this? Ask her, he said, if she sees the woman too. Denise rolled her eyes. Okay, buddy, prank time's over. She hung up. I almost told her not to. That was 2 nights ago. Tonight, I keep feeling like someone's in the room. The cameras don't show anything. Denise doesn't notice. But the air feels heavier again, like there's weight leaning into my back. Every so often, I think I hear a breath behind me. I haven't answered an unknown caller yet tonight. I don't think I want to. But the phone's ringing now, and the screen's blank. And I think I already know what he's going to say that I didn't clock out that morning. Technically, I was supposed to. My shift had ended 30 minutes earlier, but I just sat there, staring at the dead black of my monitor like I was afraid it might come back on by itself. My headset lay in my lap, coiled cord dangling to the floor. I remember thinking if I put it back on, I'd hear something, her breathing maybe, or worse, nothing at all, just the sound of the line waiting for me to speak. I couldn't shake it. The way the caller had described me, my headset, my chair, even the little chip in the desk where my elbow rested. Nobody could have known those things unless they were here. And yet, I'd looked. I had turned my head, slow as a rusted hinge, and there'd been nothing. Not even a shadow to cling to. Just the far wall, the row of silent workstations, and the dim hum of fluorescent lights overhead. It should have been over, but it wasn't. When you work nights at dispatch, you learn the value of silence. Not the peaceful kind, more like the heavy kind, where you can hear your own blood moving in your ears. It's the silence after a mother stops screaming because she realizes no one is going to get to her kid in time. The silence after a call disconnects and you're left staring at the word terminated flashing on your screen. That morning, it followed me. Down the empty hallway, into the break room. Even when I stood by the vending machine, clutching a coffee I didn't want, the air felt wrong. I was about to head out when I heard someone say my name. Reed. I turned. It was Don, senior dispatcher. 22 years in the chair. He'd seen everything. Suicides mid-call, domestic standoffs where the line stayed open. Even the time a trucker kept him on the line for 20 miles because something was following his rig on the highway. Don wasn't the kind of guy who talked. Not unless he had to. You got a minute? He asked. The way he said it, it wasn't casual. He didn't wait for me to answer. Just nodded toward the hallway, like he'd already decided I was coming with him. We ended up in the file room. No windows, just shelves of old call logs, boxes stacked to the ceiling. The smell of paper and dust. Don closed the door behind us. What you got last night? He said. It's not the first. I stared at him. You heard it. I heard about it. That's the thing about this place. Stories get around, but they don't get written down. Don leaned against the filing cabinet, arms crossed. You know the Collins kid? Worked here maybe 2 years before you. I shook my head. He had a call like yours. Woman on the line. Only difference, she didn't just describe him. She described what he was doing. Said he was scratching his arm, which he was. The room felt smaller. What happened to him? I asked. Don gave a short, humorless laugh. Quit. Wouldn't come back for his last paycheck. Left the headset hanging on the mic stand like it was hot. I thought about that. Walking away mid-shift, leaving the cord swinging. I didn't say anything, so Don kept talking. Thing is, these calls, they only happen at night. Always after midnight, usually before 4. I've been here long enough to hear the stories, and every damn one's the same. A voice that knows too much, describes things they shouldn't. Sometimes it's a woman, sometimes a man. Sometimes it's not even clear. I frowned. Not clear how. He looked at me for a long time before answering. Like the voice doesn't fit. Pitch keeps changing, like you're talking to someone who's trying on different people until one feels right. The air in the room felt heavier. Why haven't I heard about this before? I asked. Because we don't write it up, Don said. Not officially. It's off the record. You log the call as a hang-up, or you don't log it at all. Doesn't go in the system. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So you just ignore it? His eyes were tired. Tell me what you wanted to do, Reed. Call the cops? File a report? Who's going to take it seriously? We answer phones for a living. Nobody's going to believe we can't tell the difference between a prank call and whatever this is. He had a point, but it didn't make me feel any better. I asked, what do you think it is? Don hesitated. Then, I think it's somebody or something that likes being heard. That's why they call here. They know we have to pick up. The words slid into me like cold water. He must have seen my face because he added, don't let it get to you. These things burn out. Maybe they call once, maybe a couple times. Then they stop. Find someone else to bother. It sounded like advice, but it didn't feel like it. We left the file room, but I couldn't shake the feeling I'd just stepped deeper into something I didn't understand. I try not to think about it for the next couple of shifts. Focused on normal calls, car accidents, break-ins, the usual drunken disputes. But the quiet moments between calls felt stretched, like the night itself was holding its breath. And then, on Wednesday, just after 2 a.m., my line lit up. Unknown number. I froze. The first thing I noticed was the silence. No background noise, no breathing, just the faint hum of the line itself. 911, I said. What's your emergency? Nothing. Hello. A voice came through, low and almost hesitant. Do you remember me? It wasn't the exact same tone as before. Higher. But there was something in the cadence, the way the words fell, that told me it was them. My pulse started pounding. If you have an emergency, you need to tell me what it is. A pause. Then, you didn't turn around this time. I didn't even realize I was gripping the edge of the desk until I felt my nails digging into the wood. "I can see you," the voice said. "But you can't see me." My eyes flicked to the glass wall of the dispatch room. It reflected me in pale silhouette. Behind me, nothing. "Why are you calling?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Because you listen," they said. "No one else listens like you." The line went dead. I told Don the next day. He didn't look surprised. "You're in it now," he said. "In what?" He didn't answer right away, just stared at the dark surface of his coffee like it might have an answer floating in it. "Every time one of these calls happens," he said slowly, "there's a pattern. First, they make contact. Then they get closer. Then they—" He stopped. "They what?" I asked. He shook his head. "Doesn't matter. Point is, you've got to be ready for them to escalate." I hated the way he said them, like it was more than one. That night, when I took my seat, the headset felt heavier. The room seemed darker, even though all the lights were on. I kept thinking about what Don had said, about them getting closer, about how close they'd already been. And the worst part? Some small, awful part of me was starting to listen for them, that I had been staring at the blinking cursor for so long, I barely noticed my own breathing had fallen in sync with it. Steady. On off. On off. The call was still live, but silent. Just the open hiss of the line, like wind trapped in a bottle. I should have disconnected it. Policy says, no sound, no voice, no confirmation. In the call, log it, move on. But I couldn't. Something in me wouldn't. My headset felt heavier than usual, pressing into my ears like it was clamping my head in place. My palms had been sweating against the edge of the desk for so long that the laminate surface had gone slick. I told myself the silence was nothing. Maybe the caller had dropped their phone. Maybe they'd passed out. Maybe it was a butt dial from someone who'd fallen asleep on the couch. And yet, I didn't believe any of that. There was weight in that silence, like something was holding its breath with me. A cold draft slipped under the edge of my desk, brushing across my ankles. It didn't belong. The heating had been on all night, humming low through the vents. I curled my feet back under my chair and rubbed them together. My eyes drifted, again, to the glass partition in front of me. Every dispatcher's desk had one. A tall, slightly tinted panel that ran between us, keeping noise down, giving a little privacy. At night, with the overhead lights dimmed, they became mirrors. Not perfect mirrors, a little hazy, a little warped, but enough to see yourself. Enough to see behind yourself. I hadn't meant to look, but my eyes found my own reflection. My headset, my hair slightly messy, my shoulders hunched. The empty room behind me, with a row of dark and used stations. And then I noticed something strange. I blinked. Leaning slightly to the left, I tried to catch the angle again. The reflection didn't match. It wasn't obvious at first. It wasn't like my reflection was making a different face or anything out of a movie. It was smaller than that, a fraction of a second delay. My own movements echoed just barely too late. I told myself it was the glass. The way the fluorescent lights buzzed faintly overhead. The way fatigue warped everything on night shift. But then in that delay, something changed. My reflection's eyes flicked downward, like it was looking past me, over my shoulder. I felt my stomach turn. The headset crackled in my ears. My breath caught, but I didn't speak. I just stared, frozen, as the reflection's gaze slid slowly back up to meet mine. And it smiled. Not wide, not cartoonish, just enough to feel wrong. Enough to make the hair on my arms stand up. And in that exact same moment, I heard it. The faintest tap, somewhere behind me. I whipped my head around. Nothing. Just the same dark row of empty workstations. I turned back to the glass, and the smile was gone. My reflection looked normal again. Or as normal as I could trust it to be. The headset was still live. The caller hadn't hung up. I forced my voice to work. "Hello, are you still there?" No answer. Just that faint hiss, like the line was breathing. I swallowed hard. "This is 911. I need to confirm if you're safe." Silence. Then a whisper. Not from my headset. From behind the glass. It wasn't words, at least not ones I could understand. Just the sound of air moving like someone was standing too close. I leaned back in my chair without meaning to. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. My eyes flicked to the corner of the glass again. And that's when I saw it. Not my reflection. Not me. Something in the far edge of the glass, hunched low, its outline barely lit by the glow of my monitor. It wasn't moving, just crouched there like it had been the whole time. I didn't want to look directly at it. I didn't want to confirm it was there. But the glass made it impossible to ignore. Every small shift I made, the outline stayed. Not behind me. In the reflection. I pressed the mute button on my headset without even realizing it. My voice sounded thin and cracked. "Who's there?" The reflection didn't answer. The crouched shape didn't move. But the caller did. Through the hiss, a slow, deliberate voice began to speak. Not rushed. Not scared. Just calm. "You can see me now." The words hit like cold water poured down my back. My throat felt tight. "Who is this?" There was a pause. Then, "You looked away." But I never stopped watching. I was gripping the edge of the desk, so hard my fingers ached. If this is some kind of... The crouched figure in the reflection moved. Not a lot. Just enough to straighten slightly. It was too tall. The voice in my headset, and in the reflection, spoke again, this time louder. "Don't turn around." And I didn't. Not because I trusted it, but because I knew, deep in my chest, that if I turned, it would be there. Not in the reflection. In the room. My reflection started to tilt its head. Slowly. Almost curiously. Then, something changed in the glass. There were now 2 reflections of me. One that matched me exactly. And one that was smiling. I could barely breathe. My pulse was thundering in my ears. I didn't know if I was going to pass out. "You hear us," the smiling one said. And I realized it wasn't the caller speaking at all. It was the glass. I don't know how long I sat there, my headset still live, the call still connected. I didn't hang up. I didn't move. The reflections watched me. The smiling one occasionally glancing to the side, like it was keeping time with something I couldn't see. At some point, the crouched figure was gone. But I knew it hadn't left. It was closer now. It just didn't need the glass anymore, that I've been working as a 911 dispatcher for 6 years now. That's long enough for your brain to get weird. You hear things other people don't. You start predicting voices, tones, the way a scream will crack before it even comes out of the caller's mouth. But no matter how good you get at reading people, nothing prepares you for hearing your own voice calling for help. It was a slow night, the kind that makes you restless, where you can feel the hum of the fluorescent lights in your teeth. The room smelled faintly like burnt coffee, and the damp wool of someone's coat left too close to the heater. Outside, the rain had finally stopped, but the windows still dripped in slow streaks, distorting the orange glow of the street lamps. I had my headset on, leaning back, half listening to a conversation 2 desks over about some guy who tried to break into a vending machine. I was halfway through typing up an equipment inventory log when the phone rang. The sound cut sharp through the room. One short ring, then the steady tone that always made me sit up straighter. I hit the button. 911, what's your... But I stopped. Not because of what the person said. Because of how it sounded. 911. What's your emergency? The voice said. It was my voice. Same pitch. Same rhythm. The exact same way I clipped the 9, just a little shorter than the 11. For a second, I actually thought I'd somehow triggered a playback or a loop. Like I was listening to myself from a few seconds ago. My eyes flicked to the monitor. No repeat line, no recording. "Hello?" I asked. My own voice, again, but from my mouth this time. "Who is this?" the other me asked. The question made something tighten in my chest. "I'm the dispatcher," I said. "Who's calling?" "That's impossible," the voice said. Still mine. Still calm. "I'm the dispatcher." I sat forward, gripping the edge of the desk. "All right, very funny. If this is someone on shift screwing around." "I'm not screwing around." The voice snapped, just sharp enough to sound like I really meant it. "Listen to me. Someone's pretending to be me. You're not real." I almost laughed, just from how absurd it sounded. But the sound never came out, because even in those first seconds, a part of me felt it. The tone in my voice wasn't a prankster's. It wasn't someone putting on an impression. It was certain in a way that scraped against the inside of my ribs. I tried to keep my voice steady. "Sir, stop calling me sir." The voice got quieter, like he was leaning in. "I'm you. You're me. And something's wrong here." The words didn't land right in my head. They slipped past logic and went straight into that quiet place where your instincts live, The part that knows when something's off before your brain catches up. All right, I said slowly. If you're me, tell me something only I'd know. There was no pause. You keep a photo of Dad in your top drawer. Face down. You never take it out. My hand moved before I could stop it, tugging the drawer open just enough to see the corner of the old photo, edges curled, exactly where I'd left it. Face down. My mouth went dry. That's not hard to guess. You've got a scar under your left knee from when you fell off your bike at 7, he said. You were trying to race Ollie in a mod home. You lied and told Mom you tripped over a rock. I couldn't breathe for a second. That wasn't public. That wasn't even something I told my coworkers. That was my memory. Mine. Who are you? I whispered. The voice gave a humorless laugh. I told you. I'm the real one. I've been here all night, answering calls, doing my job. And now you're here, answering them too, which means something's wrong. I pressed mute on my headset and glanced toward the others in the room. They were busy with their own calls, tapping at keyboards, faces lit by their monitors. No one was looking at me. I unmuted. Why are you calling 911 if you're me? I didn't call, he said. You did. What? There was a faint crackle, like the sound was warping. You called me. And when I picked up, you were already talking. My pulse thudded in my ears. This was nonsense. Some elaborate prank. It had to be. Maybe one of the tech guys routed my call to, I don't know. But then, how would they know about the photo? The scar? The voice spoke again, softer this time. I think they're trying to replace me. The word replace made something deep in my gut twist. Who's they? I asked. I don't know, he said, but I've been feeling it all week. Every time I hear my own voice on the line, it's not an echo. It's like someone's speaking through me. I wanted to hang up. I really did. But something about his tone kept me there. It was too familiar, too convincing. Look, I said, forcing some authority into my voice. I'm going to disconnect this call. If this is some kind of technical issue, I'll report it. No, he said sharply. Don't hang up. That's what they want. If you hang up, you won't come back. My hand froze over the button. What do you mean? They'll keep the line, he said. And you'll fade. You'll think you're walking away from the desk, heading out into the parking lot. But you won't. You'll be sitting right here. Forever. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. My eyes flicked to the glass partition in front of me, catching my reflection in the dim light. And I swear, for half a second, my reflection's mouth didn't move when I did. Where are you right now? I asked. Same place you are, he said. Desk 3, left side of the room. I looked at my monitor, the coffee cup by my mouse, the faint ring of condensation. If you're sitting here, what am I looking at? You're looking at my desk, he said simply. But you're not at it. I wanted to ask more, but a sound broke through the line. Something faint, far away. Breathing. Not mine. Not his. We both went silent. You hear that? He whispered. I did. Slow, steady, almost measured. Like someone was standing just behind the glass, breathing fog onto it. I turned slightly in my chair, but the room was the same as before. Everyone else was still working. The breathing got louder. Don't turn around, he said suddenly. That command landed like ice water down my back. Why not? I whispered. Because, he said, if you look, you'll see which one of us is real. My mouth was too dry to answer. And then, just like that, the line went dead. No click, no tone. Just silence in my headset. I sat there, staring at the blank monitor, my own reflection looking back at me through the glass. And I swear, I don't think it blinked when I did that I didn't go home after that first call. I told myself I was fine, but I wasn't. The other dispatchers came in for the next shift, and I pretended like nothing happened. I sat through the debrief, filled out my log, even made small talk about the rain outside. But underneath, I felt like I had been split in half. That voice, my voice, it wasn't just similar, it was me. Every time I replayed it in my head, it lined up perfectly. Same tone, same little pauses I make when I'm nervous. Even the way I swallowed before speaking, it was all there. I didn't tell anyone. What was I supposed to say? Hey, the guy who called in an emergency sounded exactly like me and said he was the real me. They'd think I was tired, overworked, maybe hearing things. The next night was supposed to be quiet. Rainy nights usually meant fewer calls. People stayed inside, fewer accidents, fewer fights. I thought maybe I'd have a normal shift. The first couple of hours passed without a single call. I sat there in my little cubicle, the glow of the monitors reflecting off my hands, watching the raindrops race each other down the window. And then the line lit up. I put my headset on, pressing the button. 911, what's your emergency? For a second, there's only breathing on the other end. Not panic breathing. Slow. Steady. Then, in a perfect match to my voice, the caller said, 911, what's your emergency? I froze. It wasn't like an echo on a phone line. It wasn't delayed. It came exactly at the same time I spoke. Same rhythm, same pitch. I tried again. Sir, is someone there? Sir, is someone there? My stomach dropped. Every word I said came back instantly, perfectly aligned. I wasn't hearing an echo through the headset. This was someone speaking my words at the same time I was. Like we were reading the same invisible script in perfect unison. I tried to throw it off. I said something random. My name is Daniel. I'm drinking cold coffee right now. And with zero hesitation, the voice repeated, my name is Daniel. I'm drinking cold coffee right now. Not a millisecond off. My throat felt tight. I pushed my chair back a little, like getting more distance from the desk would somehow help. I didn't hang up. I couldn't. What do you want? I asked. What do you want? The voice asked back, my tone bending in the exact same spots. I realized my breathing had sped up, so I took a sharp inhale to slow down. And I heard him take the exact same breath at the exact same moment. It wasn't mimicry. It wasn't a recording. It was me. I tried to think of test. Something only I would do. I lifted my left hand and tapped the desk twice with my index finger. And in my ear, through the tiny headset speaker, I heard the tap-tap, the sound of his fingers on wood, perfectly in sync with mine. Not delayed. Not after me. At the same time. That's when my skin crawled so hard I thought I'd be sick. Why are you doing this? I asked, but this time I whispered it. And in my ear, at the same exact pitch and softness, came, why are you doing this? The silence after was unbearable. Not a real silence. There was the hum of the equipment, the rain hitting the window, but between my ears, it felt like a kind of vacuum. I had this thought, this wild, intrusive thought, that if I stayed on the line long enough, I'd start losing. Like the voice would stop waiting for me to speak and start speaking first. I don't even remember pressing the button to end the call. I just know that one moment it was there, breathing with me, speaking with me, and the next the line was dead. I yanked the headset off and sat there with my heart pounding in my throat. My supervisor, Angela, noticed. She came over, leaned on the edge of my desk. You okay? She asked. I wanted to tell her. God, I wanted to. But the words wouldn't come out right in my head. It sounded insane even to me. Yeah, I said finally. Bad prank call. She gave a sympathetic nod and walked away. But I couldn't stop staring at the little blinking light on the phone system, the one that meant the line was ready for another call. And about an hour later, it happened again. This time I didn't even get the whole 911, what's your emergency, out before I heard myself say it with me. I hung up instantly, but the line lit up again. Same number. I didn't answer. I just stared at it, and it kept ringing and ringing. Angela saw me ignoring it. Daniel, what are you doing? Pick up. I didn't move. So she reached past me and hit the button herself. And the moment she did, I heard my own voice say, hello, Angela. Angela frowned. Daniel, are you on the other line? I could feel every muscle in my body lock. The voice said, in perfect sync with mine, even though I wasn't speaking. He's not supposed to be here. I swear to God my mouth didn't move, but I felt the words inside me, like they were pulled out without permission. Angela stared at me, confused, like she couldn't tell if I was messing with her or not. She said, who is this? The voice, and I guess me, said, who is this? Angela ripped the headset off and threw it onto the desk. What the hell? She whispered. But the line stayed open, and I could hear the breathing still. Not mine. Not anymore. I pressed the disconnect button, and the call ended. Angela looked pale. Okay, she said. Okay, I'm calling IT. That's not right. I didn't stop her. I just sat there staring at my hands. Because here's the thing. I knew it wasn't a tech issue. I knew it wasn't some glitch or recording. I don't know how I knew, but I did. That was me. And whatever it wasn't done yet. I didn't sleep after the last call. I just sat there, staring at the dead black of my monitor, letting the faint hum of the computers fill the silence. My hands kept drifting to the headset, like they were expecting it to come alive again on its own. Every sentence I'd said, repeated back in the exact same timing, the exact same tone. I'd dealt with prank calls before. Teenagers. Drunks. The occasional person who thought it was funny to breathe heavy into the line until I hung up. But this was different. You don't mimic someone's voice that perfectly. Not in real time. Not with the same breaths, the same pauses, the same tiny stutters I didn't even know I made. When my relief came in that morning, I should have just clocked out. I should have gone home. But I didn't. Instead, I pulled the audio log from the system. I wanted to hear it again, maybe convince myself it wasn't as strange as it felt in the moment. Our software records everything, time-stamped, backed up automatically. The files are tagged with the caller's ID, the call length, and the operator handling it. I found it, right where it should have been. Call length, 3 minutes, 47 seconds. Caller ID, unavailable. Origin, unknown. I hit play. At first, it was just my own voice reading the standard greeting. 911, what's your emergency? And then me again. 911, what's your emergency? The first time I heard it, last night, my chest tightened. This time, listening in the cold light of morning, it was worse. It wasn't an echo. It wasn't delayed. It was simultaneous. When I spoke, the other me was already speaking with me. Like two voices locked together in the same rhythm. If you close your eyes, you couldn't tell them apart. I replayed it, over and over. My greeting, their greeting. My question, their question. Even the part where I shifted in my chair and my voice dipped slightly, they did it too. After the 10th time, I pulled off my headset and just stared at the waveform on the screen. Two identical tracks, perfectly matched peaks and valleys. I sent it to IT. An hour later, Alex from IT came up to my desk. He was holding a small notepad, the kind he uses when he's already annoyed and wants to keep it short. You sent me the wrong file, he said. No, I didn't. Yeah, you did. This is just your audio recorded twice. It's not, I said. Listen to it again. It's live. It happened in real time. He sighed and sat down beside me. I pulled up the file again and hit play. He listened, frowning, leaning in toward the monitor like it might explain itself. When it ended, he just stared at the progress bar. That's not right. You hear it too, I said. Yeah, but this isn't possible without playback. And there's no playback on a live line. So what's your explanation? I don't have one, but I could check the logs, see if there's a loopback or some kind of feedback. 20 minutes later, he was back. No loopback, no feedback, no glitch. It came from outside, he said, his voice lower now. It's a live line. Whoever, or whatever, was on the other end was sending audio in sync with yours. Where from? I asked. He hesitated. Inside the building. My stomach went cold. This building? Yeah. The trace says it's from our internal network, but not from a workstation. Not one I can see. I just stared at him. We only have 12 workstations. I know. So where? I don't know. He stood there for a long second like he wanted to say something else, then just turned and walked away. That night, I came in early. I don't know why. Maybe I thought if I caught it happening again, I could what? Ask it who it was? Demand it stop? I sat down at my console, headset in place, eyes on the incoming line monitor. The dispatch floor was quiet except for the faint clicks of keyboards. 2 hours in, nothing. 3 hours in, my neck was stiff, my coffee was cold, and my mind was drifting. At 2:41 a.m., the line lit up. Unknown ID. Origin. Internal. I froze. I forced my voice to stay calm. 911. What's your emergency? 911. What's your emergency? It was me. Again. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel in my ears. Who is this? I asked. Who is this? Stop repeating me. Stop repeating me. I clenched my teeth. This isn't funny. This isn't funny. I tried something different. Something I wouldn't normally say on a call. My name is. I stopped. My lips hadn't finished moving before theirs had. This wasn't lag. This wasn't copying. They were me. Where are you right now? I asked. Where are you right now? I muted my mic and sat back, heart hammering. The silence was worse than the mimicry. I unmuted. Are you in this building? Are you in this building? I could hear something now under the voice. A faint rustling. The soft click of something metallic. I took off the headset and looked around the room. All the other dispatchers were at their stations, heads down, typing. Nobody was talking. I put the headset back on. What do you want? What do you want? The rustling grew louder. It wasn't static. It was footsteps, and they were getting closer. I slammed the call into hold and motioned to Alex, who was walking past. It's happening again, I said. He leaned over my monitor, eyes scanning the data. Same trace, he said quietly. Internal. But what? It's moving. He pointed at the tiny location graph in the corner of the screen. The trace was a red dot, shifting slowly along the building's internal map. It was on the second floor, then the stairwell, then the first floor, and it was heading toward us. Alex grabbed his radio and called for security. I just sat there, my headset still on, listening to the sound of my own breathing mirrored perfectly in my ear. When the footsteps stopped, the trace dot was right behind me. I spun around. Nothing. Just the empty aisle between rows of desks. Do you see anyone? I whispered into the headset. Do you see anyone? The voice was softer now, almost like it was speaking directly into my ear, not through a line. I tore the headset off and dropped it on the desk. Alex was still on the radio, his voice tight. Security swept the floor. Found nothing. The dot vanished from the trace. IT kept digging. They ran every test, every diagnostic. No device. No workstation. No physical source. The official report called it anomalous line duplication, which is a fancy way of saying they didn't know what the hell it was. But I knew one thing. It wasn't over. Because 3 nights later, I got another call. Unknown ID. Origin. Internal. This time, I didn't even greet it. I just whispered, I know you can hear me. And in my ear, perfectly matched in time and tone, I heard, I know you can hear me. But there was something different this time. A smile in the voice. My smile that I didn't believe it at first. When Rick told me to come look at the security monitor, I thought maybe it was just another one of his messed up jokes. But the way his voice broke when he said my name? No, he wasn't joking. He wouldn't look at me when I walked over. He just pointed. The grainy black and white feed from camera 2, the one aimed at my workstation, was pulled up full screen. There I was. Or at least, it was supposed to be me. The desk was exactly how it should have been. The stack of call logs off to the right, the coffee mug with the chipped handle just where I left it. The chair was pushed in slightly, not all the way under the desk, but not far enough back to be in the way. And in the middle of it all, the headset sat there. Not on my head, not even in my hand, just lying flat on the desk like I hadn't touched it all night. I could feel the weight of the real headset on my ears. I could feel the warmth of my own breath bouncing back into the little foam cover over the mic. My thumb rested over the mute button the same way it always did when I was bracing for another round of static or screaming. It was here, on me, but on the screen it was untouched. I leaned closer, squinting at the screen. No movement, no shift in light, no indication the footage was looping. Just a dead still image of my empty seat. Except my heart sank when I noticed the timestamp in the corner. It wasn't old. It was now. Maybe the feed's lagging, I said, even though my voice didn't sound like mine. Rick didn't answer. He just shook his head. This is live, he said. I just checked the other cameras. They're fine. It's only yours that's doing this. I looked over my shoulder across the dim dispatch floor. My desk was right there. I could see the headset cord snaking down into the tangle of wires. I could see the chair, empty on the monitor, occupied in reality, sitting right under the flickering fluorescent bulb. It didn't make sense. If this was live footage and my headset was sitting there on the desk, then what was I wearing? I wanted to take it off, to rip the thing from my head and throw it across the room. But something deep in my chest told me not to. Like it wasn't just a piece of plastic and wires anymore. Like it had teeth. I could still hear the faint hum of the open line in my ear. That low hiss of static that had been with me all night. The voice hadn't come back since the last time, but that didn't make me feel better. If anything, the silence was worse. I didn't realize I'd been holding my breath until Rick put a hand on my shoulder. You all right, man? I nodded too quickly. Yeah, just get someone to check the camera feed. Maybe the wiring's messed up. He hesitated. And if it's not, then we replace it. I didn't let him finish whatever he was about to say. I turned and walked back toward my desk. It's only a glitch. That's what I kept telling myself. But as I sat back down, the hair on my arms rose. The headset felt heavier now. Not physically, it was the same weight it always was, but aware. Like it knew I'd seen the footage. I pressed the button to log the latest call notes, but my fingers hesitated over the keys. The cursor blinked in the empty text box. Blink, 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 like it was tapping its foot, waiting for me to catch up. I glanced at the little black dome of the camera in the corner of the room. It was pointed straight at me. The red light inside was on. Recording. Watching. The open line in my ear hissed again, louder this time. My hand twitched toward the mute button and stopped. Because I realized something. In the camera feed, the headset was lying on the desk. Which meant, if someone was on the other end of this line, they weren't talking to me. They were talking to whatever was supposed to be sitting here. I didn't even notice Rick had come back until he spoke. They're saying the feed's clean. No interference. No playback issues. I turned slowly. So that's me. He opened his mouth, then shut it. I don't know what it is. We stood there for a second too long, both of us avoiding the obvious. Then, without warning, the line in my ear crackled. A sound came through. It wasn't the voice from before. It was something wetter, breathing but too close. Not like someone talking into a mic, like someone pressing their mouth right against my ear. It was slow, careful, almost curious. I froze. My pulse slammed against the inside of my skull. The sound shifted. A tiny, deliberate click like fingernails on glass. Once, twice, 3 times. I turned back toward my screen, but my eyes slid toward the reflection in the black plastic of the monitor frame instead. Behind me, in that warped little reflection, the headset cord didn't look like it was plugged into the console. It looked like it disappeared into the air. I jerked the headset off my head. The sound stopped instantly. But the cord still hummed faintly in my hand, like there was a heartbeat inside it. I must have gone pale because Rick stepped back. Man, you're freaking me out. What the hell's going on? I swallowed, my throat dry. I think it's not me on that camera. The problem is once you say something like that out loud, it's too late to take it back. The words just hang there. Heavy. Stupid. True. Rick didn't answer right away. And when he finally did, he didn't meet my eyes. Then who is it? I didn't have an answer, but I knew I couldn't sit back down. Still, some part of me couldn't leave it alone. I stepped closer to the desk and leaned down, looking at the headset where it sat in the camera feed. It was positioned differently than how mine had been just a moment ago. Not by much, just a subtle shift in the angle of the mic arm. Like it had been picked up, like it was being worn by something I couldn't see. And then, the static in my ear returned. Except I wasn't wearing the headset anymore. It came from the desk, from the real one, and underneath the hiss, a voice. Quiet, muffled, like it was speaking through water. But I understood it. I'm still here. When you're new on the job, people don't really tell you what to expect. They tell you the basics. How to log a call, how to tag an incident, how to keep your voice calm even when someone's screaming in your ear. But the rest, the things you only learn from being here at 3 in the morning, those they leave for you to figure out yourself. I've been working at the county dispatch center for 2 months. Long enough to stop shaking every time the phone rang, but not long enough to feel like I belonged there. The veterans had their own rhythm, their own inside jokes. I still sat at the far corner of the room, headset just a little too tight, doing my best to keep up. It was a slow night, the kind where the hum of the fluorescent lights feels louder than anything outside. My supervisor, Mallory, had gone into the records room to look for some old case files. She came back a few minutes later with a stack of binders in her arms and a thin layer of dust on her sleeves. "You're bored, right?" she said, dropping the binders on the desk next to me. "Always," I said, half smiling. She tilted her head toward the door she'd just come from. "There's a ton of old junk back there. Might as well make yourself useful. The tapes need sorting." "Tapes? Cassette tapes," she said, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. "From before everything went digital. Nobody's touched them in years. If they're labeled, keep them. If not, they can probably be tossed. Just don't spend all night listening to them. Some of those calls are rough." I didn't ask what she meant by rough. I figured she meant bad accidents, domestic calls gone wrong, the usual ugly parts of the job. The records room smelled like an attic no one had opened in decades. stale air, cardboard, and something faintly metallic. It was bigger than I expected, the shelves stacked high with manila folders, loose papers, and boxes in various states of collapse. My flashlight beam cut through the dark, dust swirling in the light like tiny drifting snow. It didn't take me long to find them. On the bottom shelf, shoved behind a stack of old binders, was a plain, unlabeled cardboard box. It wasn't marked with a case number or even a date. Just an old, sagging box, edges softened from years of sitting there. I crouched down, slid it out, and immediately coughed as a wave of dust came up. Inside were cassette tapes. Dozens of them. Some still in their little plastic cases, some loose, with the reels showing through the cloudy windows. None had proper labels. A few had numbers scribbled in marker that had almost faded away. Most were completely blank. I thought about Mallory's instructions, toss anything unmarked, but for some reason, I didn't. There was something about the weight of the box, the way the tapes clinked softly against each other, that made me feel like I shouldn't just throw them away. I carried the whole thing back to my desk. The others barely noticed. Nights like this, nobody cared what you were doing as long as you were ready to take a call when it came in. I dug an old cassette player out of the bottom drawer, probably hadn't been used in years, and plugged in my headphones. The first tape crackled to life with a hiss of static. For a moment, I heard nothing. Then breathing. Not the panicked, gasping kind I usually heard on calls. This was slow, measured, almost calm. A man's voice came on, quiet enough that I had to turn the volume up all the way. "Hello," he said. A dispatcher's voice, older, male, answered. 911, what's your emergency? There was a long pause. Then the caller said, "She's in the house." The dispatcher asked who. Another pause. "My wife," the man whispered. The dispatcher asked if she was trying to hurt him. "No," the man said. His voice was trembling now. "She died last year." I froze. There was a rustle on the line, like movement in another room. Then a door creaking open. The man's breathing sped up. "She's coming up the stairs." The dispatcher tried to keep him talking, but the line went dead before he could answer. The tape clicked off. I sat there for a moment, headphones still on, just listening to the empty hum of the player. No follow-up, no conclusion. Just a deadline. I set that tape aside and grabbed another. This one started in the middle of a sentence. "Been calling for hours," a woman's voice said, ragged and shaking. "No one comes out here." The dispatcher's voice was female this time. She asked the woman to give her location. The woman said an address, one I didn't recognize. She kept saying it over and over, like she thought if she said it enough times, someone would actually arrive. "Ma'am, what is your emergency?" "It's dark," the woman said. The woman said, "It's dark outside. It's been dark all day." The dispatcher asked what time she thought it was. "I don't know," the woman whispered. "It doesn't change." The line was silent for so long, I thought the recording had stopped. Then I heard her voice again. "They're knocking again." The call ended. I took the headphones off. My hands were clammy, and my throat felt tight. I told myself these were just old calls. People say strange things when they're scared. When you've been working dispatch long enough, you learn that the truth on the line isn't always the truth in the world. But something about these felt wrong. I put the box under my desk, telling myself I'd finish going through it later. I didn't mention it to anyone. The next night, I pulled out another tape. Then another. And another. One was nothing but the sound of rain and someone sobbing softly. One was a man repeating the same phrase over and over. "Don't hang up. Don't hang up. Don't hang up." One was a call where the dispatcher's voice was faint, like it was coming from the other end of a tunnel, and the caller sounded like a child, but they never gave their name. They just kept asking, "Do you see her too?" I started recognizing the voices. Not the callers, the dispatchers. Some of them had retired before I even started working here. A few I'd only heard about in passing, their names like half-forgotten rumors. But there was one voice when I didn't recognize it all. Flat, calm, almost emotionless. It didn't sound like any of the others. And the strangest thing, every time that voice was on the tape, the calls never started with the line ringing. It was like I'd missed the beginning, like the recording had started after the call had already been going on for a while. After a week, I'd gone through maybe half the box. My sleep was starting to suffer. I'd hear the voices in my head when I tried to close my eyes. I think I heard the click of a cassette ending somewhere in my apartment. Then one night, I played a tape and heard myself. It was my voice, clear as day. 911, what's your emergency? I felt a cold rush down my spine. This had to be some kind of mistake. I never worked on the calls in this box. They were from years before I started. But it was me. The caller was breathing heavily. They didn't speak at first. Then they said, "You're not supposed to be here yet." I stammered something. On the tape, my recorded voice asked them to repeat that. "You're too early," the caller said. There was a soft knocking sound in the background. Then the tape ended. I sat there for a long time, staring at the cassette player, the reel still spinning down. I didn't tell Mallory. I didn't tell anyone. But the next night, when I came in, the box wasn't under my desk anymore. It was sitting on my chair, and on top of it was a single tape marked in thick black letters. Play me next that I didn't touch the box again for 3 days. Not because I forgot about it. You don't forget about something like that. You avoid it. The first night, I kept thinking I heard faint clicks in my apartment, like the sound of a tape starting to play, then stopping. My brain told me it was just the fridge or the pipes settling, but every time it happened, I found myself glancing toward my bag, where the first cassette still sat, wrapped in the tissue I'd used to handle it. I told myself I wasn't scared, just tired. That's what I always do when something feels wrong. Pretend I'm just worn out. It's easier than admitting you don't have control over what's about to happen. On the third night, I gave up pretending. I went back to the station early, before the shift started, before anyone else could show up and see me. I signed out one of the old tape decks we keep for training. Most people don't even know we still have them, and brought it to the records room. The box was right where I'd left it, shoved under the shelf, dust still clinging to its edges like frost. My stomach sank when I saw it, like it had been waiting for me. I picked up a random cassette. The label was gone, the plastic yellowed from age. Inside, the tape itself looked stiff, brittle. I pushed it into the deck, pressed play. At first, just hiss. Then a voice, a man's voice, quiet, shaky. This is 911, right? There's someone outside my house." I froze. The voice didn't sound urgent the way most people do when they call us. It was almost resigned, like he knew no one was coming. The dispatcher on the other end, her voice was calm, trained, asked for his address. 62 Valley Ridge Drive, the man said. I knew the name of the street, or I thought I did. Valley Ridge was a subdivision on the far edge of town, or it had been. My memory tickled with something strange, an article, maybe, but I couldn't place it. The dispatcher asked for more details. The man kept repeating himself. "There's someone outside. They're in the yard." I could hear the faint sound of wind in the background, but no movement, no footsteps. The way he said someone was wrong, too. Flat, like the word didn't fit in his mouth. Then, the line went dead. Not like a normal hang-up. No click, no beep, just gone. I rewound the tape, tried to listen for any clue, but it was the same every time. The dispatcher never called him back, and there was no follow-up log. It was as if the call had just been filed away, forgotten. I went to the computer to pull up the address. That's when the unease in my chest started to really twist. Valley Ridge Drive didn't exist anymore. The subdivision was there on maps from 20 years ago, but now it was just empty land. No houses, no street, nothing but a patch of wild grass and trees. Like it had never been built at all. I told myself there had to be a simple explanation. Rezoning, demolition, something. But even if the houses were gone, the call shouldn't have been. It should have been transferred to another department, logged as historical. Instead, it was buried in a box with no labels. I played another tape. This one was a woman. She was crying. "They're in the walls," she whispered. The dispatcher asked who was in the walls. "I don't know. I can hear them. They're scratching. They've been scratching for days." Her voice shook, but not with fear, more like exhaustion, like she hadn't slept in weeks. The dispatcher tried to calm her, but every time she spoke, the woman interrupted. No. You don't understand. They're close now. I can hear them in the vents." The dispatcher asked for her location. 14 Hollow Creek. I typed it into the system. Nothing. No Hollow Creek in the entire county. Not even historically. Halfway through the call, the woman stopped mid-sentence. Then a sound. It wasn't scratching, not exactly. More like something brushing along the inside of the microphone. Slow, deliberate. The dispatcher kept saying, "Ma'am, "Ma'am," but there was no reply. The brushing sound grew louder until it filled the line, then silence. I stopped the tape, hand hovering over the eject button. My palms were sweating. 2 calls. 2 addresses that didn't exist. I wanted to stop, but I couldn't. The third tape was different. No dispatcher voice, just a man, breathing hard, whispering. "They said you wouldn't help me," he murmured. I felt my skin prickle. I told them you would. But you didn't. You never came. His voice cracked. "I see you now." That was it. The tape stopped. No address. No timestamp. Nothing to even prove it was a real call. I sat there, staring at the deck, trying to figure out why my heart was pounding so hard. Something about that last voice, it didn't sound like he was calling anyone. It sounded like he was speaking to me. I don't know how long I sat there before I realized the room had gone cold. The kind of cold that doesn't just touch your skin, but gets into your lungs. I packed everything back into the box, shoved it under the shelf, and locked the records room behind me. But that night, I made the mistake of taking one tape home. I don't know why. Maybe to prove to myself that it was just nothing. Just old audio from forgotten cases. I waited until it was after midnight before I played it. This one was faint, like it had been recorded over a dozen times. I could barely make out the voice at first. "You have to send someone. Please. I'm at..." The sound cut out, then came back warped, as if the tape had been twisted. "Not safe here, it's..." Static swallowed the rest. I turned the volume up, leaning close. That's when I heard it, underneath the hiss of the tape. A second voice. Low, almost a growl. It said my name. Not sir. Not hello. My name. I yanked the cassette out so fast the deck nearly tipped over. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. The tape had no label, no date, nothing that should have connected it to me. But I know what I heard. And when I finally forced myself to look it up in the system, the address it gave wasn't there. Wasn't anywhere. Just like the others. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I kept seeing the box in the records room, sitting in the dark, waiting, like it knew I'd be back. And I will be, because now I need to know if the calls are from the past, or if they're waiting for me in the future that I thought I'd gotten used to the box. The tapes, the dust. It was just part of the job now, a weird thing in the corner of the storage room. I kept telling myself I'd get to later, except later came quicker than I thought. It was a Tuesday night, quiet, the kind of shift where the hum of the fluorescent lights above feels louder than any call coming in. I was on dispatch, alone in the back corner of the room. My partner had gone to grab a coffee, leaving me with the headsets, the maps, and the steady rhythm of my own breathing. Then the call came in. At first, it sounded routine, woman's voice, maybe mid-40s, tight and shaky, like she was holding back panic. There's someone outside my house, she said. I started running through the normal questions. Name, location, description of the person, any weapons, how long they'd been there. Her answers were short, clipped. Yes, he's still there. No, she doesn't recognize him. Yes, he's moving closer. And then the part that made my stomach tense. He's smiling at me. I don't like it. Please just send someone. I did what I was supposed to. Logged the call. Gave the address to the nearest unit. They were on their way. The whole thing took maybe 2 minutes. When it was done, I sat there for a moment, headset still on, just listening to the line go dead. There was something in her voice I couldn't shake, like she wasn't just afraid of the man. She was afraid of what he wanted. I tried to push it out of my head, told myself the officers would handle it. But then, I don't know why I did it. I can't explain the impulse. My eyes just drifted toward that box again. The one from storage. The one full of tapes. It was sitting on a bottom shelf by my desk now, because apparently I liked making my workspace look like the set of a bad crime show. Maybe I was just bored. Maybe I wanted a distraction from picturing the woman's pale face pressed against her window, watching that smile in the dark. So I reached in, grabbed one at random. No label. Just a dull black cassette with a faint crack on the side. I popped it into the old player we kept for recording call reviews. The hiss of static came first, loud in my headphones. Then a voice. A woman's voice. There's someone outside my house. I froze. The words weren't just similar to the call I'd just taken. They were exact. Same hesitation, same little tremor in the first word. I kept listening. She answered the questions. Same short, clipped tone. Same stutter when she said she didn't recognize him. And then, he's smiling at me. I don't like it. Please, just send someone. I yanked the headphones off like they'd burn me. No way. No. I looked at the clock. The call I'd taken, it had been what? 12 minutes ago. 15? I pulled up the log just to prove to myself I wasn't losing it. Same wording. Same address. Except, when I checked the date on the tapes case, there wasn't one. And when I cross-referenced the address with our system, it didn't exist. Not anymore. The street name was still there in the map archives, but the houses, they'd been demolished. Years ago, the empty lot had been turned into a stretch of overgrown field. My hands started to sweat. I told myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe someone had staged an old call as a joke. Maybe the woman had moved from that street years ago, and this was just some freak coincidence. But then why would she repeat every word exactly? I didn't tell anyone right away. I didn't want to sound like I was losing it. I just put the tape back, shoved the box under my desk, and went back to work. The rest of the shift dragged. No more calls from her. The officers never reported finding anyone outside her current address. By the time I clocked out, I convinced myself I'd just imagined the similarity. Maybe my brain had filled in gaps. I went home, tried to sleep. Didn't work. I kept hearing her voice in my head. That little tremor. That pause before smiling. By the next shift, I'd given up pretending I wasn't curious. I pulled the box back up onto the desk, slid another tape in. Static. Then, another voice. This time a man. Young. Sounded like he was standing outside, wind moving through the receiver. There's a car following me. I didn't recognize this call. At least, not yet. Until 20 minutes later, when a line lit up, and a young man's voice said into my ear, There's a car following me. I felt like the air got sucked out of the room. I asked him questions. Got the same answers as the tape. Word for word. Even the background noise, the wind, it matched. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to tell him to hang up, to just stop talking, but my training took over. I dispatched a unit. The tape played on in my other ear, still synced with him. I kept waiting for one of them to break the script, for him to say something different, for the tape to skip or fade. It didn't. They both ended the call at the same moment. That's when I noticed something else. The tape was old, fuzzy, a little warped, but the background wasn't just wind. It was voices. Far away, faint. I couldn't make out words, but they were there. When the real caller hung up, the voices on the tape grew louder for a second, like they'd realized I was listening. I took the headphones off. I don't even remember finishing that shift. I just remember going home with this heavy, sick feeling in my stomach. It wasn't just recordings. It was something else, something alive in those tapes. And they weren't just playing the past. They were playing tonight that I thought locking them up would be enough. The tapes, I mean. After that night, I didn't even want to touch them again. I shoved the whole box into the old supply closet, the one with the busted light that flickers like it's breathing. I turned the key twice, checked the knob 3 times, and still I kept thinking I could hear them. Not just the whir of the reels. Not just the hiss of tape. Voices. Muffled, like someone was speaking into their hands on the other side of the door. It wasn't until I walked away that the sound stopped. For the first time in weeks, I tried to focus on my shift. Just the normal calls. Car wrecks, domestic disturbances, noise complaints. The little emergencies that fill the gaps between the real ones. But the quiet didn't last. The first time it happened, I thought it was a coincidence. The call came in just before midnight. A woman's voice, ragged and thin. Please, she said, he's still in the house. I tried to ask her questions, tried to get an address, but her voice shook like she was on the edge of breaking. And then she started repeating herself. Please, he's still in the house. Please, he's still in the house. Over and over. No change in pitch. No stutter or hesitation. Exactly the same. Like a skipping record. I leaned back in my chair, listening hard. The line hissed softly in my ear. Ma'am, I said, can you hear me? Nothing. Just one last, please, he's still in the house. And then the call cut. I sat there staring at the deadline, trying to shake it off. It wasn't until I went to log the call that I realized something that made my stomach drop. I'd heard it before. Not just something like it. The exact words. The same tone. The same pauses. The same hitch in her breath. before the word please. From the tape, the one I'd listened to 2 nights ago. I actually stood up from my desk. I didn't even mean to. My body just moved like I was trying to physically distance myself from the console. I told myself it was stress. Bad memory playing tricks. I even dug through my old shift logs to compare notes, to prove it couldn't be the same. But it was word for word. I didn't sleep when I got home. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the tape spinning in the dark. The next night, it happened again. This time it was a man, breathing hard, saying he was trapped in his basement. Kept whispering, "Don't let them find me." His voice would break into these sharp, panicked breaths, like he was holding back a scream. I tried to keep him talking, tried to get his location. But just like before, his words looped. "Don't let them find me. Don't let them find me. Don't let them." Cut. And again, I knew it. I'd heard it before. On one of the dusty, unlabeled tapes I'd put away. It didn't make sense. Those calls were old. Years old. Why were they coming in now? I told myself maybe the tapes were just in my head. That listening to them had burned those voices into my memory. But if that was true, how did the new calls match exactly? Same words, same breaths, same length of silence between them. It wasn't like I could ignore it. By the fourth night, I started to dread every ring of the phone. I'd stare at the blinking light, my hand hovering, my chest tightening like I already knew who would be on the other end. And I was right. It was them. Different voices, different nights, but always the same as one of the tapes. Always ending the same way, sudden, hollow silence. The worst part? They started calling during the day. I'd be mid-conversation with someone about a fender bender, then another line would start ringing. I'd patch through, and it was them. A kid crying for his mom. A man whispering in the dark. A woman gasping like she'd been running for hours. And every time, I recognized the call. I stopped locking the supply closet. I don't know why. Maybe I thought if I kept it open, I'd feel in control. But that didn't help. The tapes didn't need the closet to get to me. One morning, I went in early, just to see if maybe I could find some explanation. I took one of the tapes out, slid into the old player. Press play. The hiss came first, then the voice. A man's, low and shaky. "They're outside," he said. "Don't hang up." I froze. I knew this one. I'd taken the same call last night at exactly 2:14 a.m. I let it play until the click at the end, and then I rewound it and played it again. I thought maybe the second time I'd hear something new, a cough, a background noise, anything that proved it wasn't a perfect match. But it was perfect. Every sound, every pause, every breath. Like the call had been lifted from the tape and placed in my headset. I put the tape back, closed the box, and told myself I wouldn't touch them again. I lasted 2 days. The calls didn't stop. They just changed. Sometimes the voices would say my name. Not right away, not at the start of the call. Always somewhere in the middle when I wasn't expecting it. The first time it happened, I thought I was imagining it. But the second time, I swear to God, the man on the line whispered, "You know this one, don't you?" I dropped the headset. It clattered against the console, but the voice kept talking, tinny and far away. I didn't pick it up again. It took nearly a minute for the line to go dead. That night, I didn't go home. I just sat in my car in the station parking lot, engine off, listening to the hum of the streetlights. I kept thinking about all those voices trapped in the dark, and how maybe they weren't trapped anymore. The next shift, I told myself I wouldn't answer. No matter who called, no matter how desperate they sounded. But then the phone rang, and it didn't stop. Not after 30 seconds. Not after a minute. 2 minutes. 5. It rang so long, I started to feel sick. Like the sound was worming its way into my skull. Finally, I picked up. I didn't speak. I just held the receiver to my ear and listened. At first, there was nothing. Then, breathing. Slow. Careful. "Same as tonight," the voice said. I gripped the edge of the desk, so hard my fingers ached. "What?" I whispered. The voice repeated it. "Same as tonight." I wanted to hang up. I should have hung up, but my hand wouldn't move. "You'll answer anyway," the voice said. The line went dead. I sat there for a long time, staring at the blinking lights on the console. And when the next call came in, another voice I knew, another desperate plea, I did what the voice said. I answered, because that's the thing about this job. You always answer, even when you know exactly what's waiting on the other end.